Hello, hello. Let's get that audio check done. We got a lot of ground to cover today. I will delay any announcements, if I can even think of any, till after the video is over with. I'm pretty sure my audio is good right now. I'm not having any issues. Audio is clear. Thank you. Let's go ahead and remove this from stage. All right. So as you guys know, in the past 6-7 weeks, I've been at an accelerated pace, and it's just one of those. It's just one of those phenomenon that the closer and closer you get to a destination, the more and more the more and more you experience, the more information you take in, the more things that seem disparate are actually correlates. And you guys have been on this journey with me, and I had done presentations in the past where I'm really neurotic about the input data, as you guys know. And as a chronologist, I have hyper compartmentalized many of my studies, such as the Phoenix phenomenon. I don't contaminate it with anything else. I want to show you guys that there is a heartbeat to the structuring of reality every 138 years and what is happening. These edits and these fine tunings and populations disappearing. So I've kept the Nemesis X independent as well. But recently I've had to bridge the two, and it's simply because in the year 522 AD, it is the only year in world history where the Nemesis X timeline and the Phoenix timeline absolutely converge. And any of those who have been following the Archaix research, you already know the Phoenix phenomenon, you already know the Nemesis X timeline, you already know what I'm talking about. But today you're going to see so much material you have never seen before, because every bit of it came together. 2020, the vax, COVID, all the psyops that have unfolded in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, the massive amount of intelligence agency-backed false narratives that have flooded social media, getting everybody to believe in every little single thing, and these guys get well-financed, and it's perplexed us, and we have followed these narratives in Archaics and gone through them one by one and shown where they fall apart upon scrutiny. We have been through them all. You guys know I went through a 4-year shill war, and I got no debates. You guys know I was heavy on Graham Hancock, showing every bit of this is wrong. Randall Carlson, every bit of this is wrong. Jimmy Corsetti, Billy Carson, Matt LaCroix, and a whole host of other copyists showing, man, none of this is true. None of it's right. Yet they got this massive media attention. And never really made sense to me. It all makes sense to me now. Every bit of it makes sense to me. Why Zelensky is the ruler of Ukraine makes sense to me. Why Trump is the president of the United States makes sense to me. Everything is theater, even the history of the world. Everything is theater, all of politics. Hollywood is about the only one telling the truth. They're a bunch of pedos. But in theater, they can tell us the business all the time. They just can't tell us straight out. So you guys are going to go on a trip with me today where we're going to show the value of Fomenko's new chronology. We're going to show the value of Alexander Del Mar's chronology on the Anno Domini calendar and what they hid. We're going to show you the value of the researcher in 1991 who blew people's minds with the missing time hypothesis. Actually, I can't remember. The phantom time hypothesis. Every bit of it totally makes sense with what we're showing in this video. But it all started with David Icke. It all started, you guys know, on my channel, I've given him much, kudos for being instrumental in my awakening in the 1990s when I was just a strapping young fellow. But I read his books. I read The Biggest Secret. I think it was 1999. Of course, I've told you guys about Children of the Matrix, and I think he wrote the World Trade Center disaster, Alice in Wonderland book, and the more recent one, Tales of the Time Loop. But I haven't read any of his recent books. Now, I haven't even read the one where he quoted me. He put a paragraph in me about my research and simulation theory, which I appreciate that. But David Icke was very instrumental. but it was a huge turnoff to me to entertain shape changers. Yeah, I'm into chronology. You remember the beginning of my story. For the first 40 years of my life, I was a Southern Baptist Christian, washed in the blood of the Lamb, twice baptized, battling Muslims with my sword. I wasn't trying to hear it, but I researched myself right out of that paradigm. It was during those years that I was reading David Icke, and I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. So, in reading Mr. Icke's material, I was turned off by the reptilian shape changer deal. I was turned off by all of it, and it only by a roundabout way, realizing that uniformitarianism was a way to get ahead of the game. Now that I've done the work and I understand how it was developed, why it was developed, who the pushers and financiers were, now I understand. Damn, they always knew that as the human infrastructure builds on the surface that we were going to find things. So they put a framework of intelligence out there in the field since the 1800s to do away with all anomalous findings. Oh, I'm gonna blow your mind in this video, guys. I got hooked up with somebody in Europe who was very impressed with one of my recent dinosaur videos, and he sent me the archive of what they found in Europe that most Americans have never even seen nor heard of. You know, the Icke stones, the Acambaro stones, these things are all here in the United States. I mean, in the Americas. I have a bunch of stuff I'm going to show you in this video. New stuff that makes sense of what's going on. We're gonna package it all up, tie a bow around it. We're done. By the end of this video, you will understand the history of the world. You will understand exactly why everything is the way it is, why all the psyops, why all the bullshit politics, why all the misdirection, why all the shills get all the attention. Everything's going to make sense. But like I said, it started with David Icke exposing the shape changer deal. I dismissed it as sensationalist. Didn't comport with anything that I had been educated to believe, but I educated myself right out of that paradigm, remember? And now, in light of some really intriguing things, I mean, how do you fit Jeffrey Epstein into this whole package? It's gonna blow your mind. Yeah, this video didn't even exist 4 days ago. Like I told you, it was in a 60 seconds, just something bothered me. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. And then I'm talking about every single thing I've been researching all fell into play. You're going to get it right here. So let's get started. Let me drink my coffee because I love coffee. Dead man mocking. You better remember. All right. For those of you who want a better look, you know who that is. You know who that is. So, let me show just a few of these things. Share my screen. I'll be sharing my screen a lot. I've got video reels to show you, videos that I made just for this presentation. But the man, where I'm going to have to eat a little crow. I've told you guys in the past that, you know, David Icke's got some spiritual material that's badass. He's entertaining simulation theory that's badass. He's always been on top of the game on the socio-political stuff. He's been a pioneer. He's been showing us what's going to unfold 10 and 15 years before it actually happened. He's the man. Shape changers, yeah, I threw that shit out the window. I'm not throwing it out the window anymore. Now, I still have my criticisms. And it's not personal, but David Icke is a product of his times, meaning he was educated in the uniformitarian model, and he has not lost that. It's very evident in his books. When you go to talking about anything hundreds of thousands of years ago, when you go to talk about relative dating methods, you go to talk about dinosaurs millions of years ago and all that's uniformitarian BS, and it's all easily disproven. So, and we're going to do that in this video. All right, moving on. We are just now beginning, and I'm going to tell you now, this is going to be a ride. I'm anticipating 3 hours. So, all right, share screen. . So many of you have read many of his books. This is like one of his first books where he was just really exposing the Clintons and Bushes, all that, how the world works, the intelligence agencies and apparatuses, the reptilian nature of the elite. This is the biggest secret. I believe it's 1999. In this book, David Icke said the dinosaurs didn't die out. They evolved into the elite controlling us today. It's statements like this that turn me off. Back then when I wrote it, I am not turned off now. Although the dinosaurs didn't die out, they evolved into the elite controlling us today. Yeah, I'm not going with the evolution crap, but I get his meaning. There is a correlate. There is a direct connection you're going to find in this video. So it's another good, let's see, there's another good Children of the Matrix. Here's another good book. I mean, you can still read these books today. They have value. They'll blow your mind. But I remember in this book, he elaborates on like the vibrational frequencies, like giving these reptilian shapeshifters dimensional access to our world, and it was through frequency. And he makes a statement in this book that fossils mark incursion points when the reptilians came into our world. Please remember that statement. Fossils mark the incursion points where reptilians came into this world. So this is precisely what the Nemesis X model shows, as my Archaics veterans know in the chat, as I've shown in multiple videos. But you're going to have to see it in a whole new way in this presentation, because I was fundamentally wrong on the carrier mechanism. I got it now, and so does science. They're already talking about it, and I just didn't know, but I'm going to show it to you. I thought Nemesis X brought reptiles. I was wrong. Now, there's another book of his. Let me go to, there it is, Tales of the Time Loop. So here it is, Tales of the Time Loop. So he goes into more depth about like the reptilian overlords. And again, back when this book was published, I would have like thrown all this out. I just, man, move around somewhere. Jay-Z, how you doing? I saw you do a real large space with a bunch of people, man. On X. One of these days, man, we want to talk, invite me, man. I still haven't done a space. I've been wanting to, but I need to be invited because I don't have the technical know-how to do one myself yet. Appreciate it, though. All right. So Tales from the Time Loop, he goes a little bit deeper into the reptilian overlords, and he shows how they're remembered in different traditions. So David and I are going to just have to agree to disagree. Although I don't think there's much distinct. We're splitting hairs. I am not going to communicate to my community anything about extraterrestrials or aliens. I'm not there. From the inception of my channel, I've shown my channel the evidence that all UFO activity, all 411 activity, missing persons, everything is involved with interactions and exchanges of men and materials between the surface and the underworld. And everything about the heavens and the sky is a psyop. So, having said that, I think David's pretty close to that too. I just don't really know. I haven't talked to him, so I don't know. But he might be there, because when he goes to talking about extraterrestrials, he often like self-corrects and starts talking about extra dimensional stuff. And that I'm going to be on board with. Yeah. I mean, hell, Bigfoot is the hide and seek champion. And nobody can deny that Bigfoot stinks. Dogs smell him, puts off deep footprints. Yeah. 300-pound men can't make impressions that deep. Yeah. The physical evidence for Bigfoot is absolutely real. Sasquatch, Yeti, abominable snowman, whatever you want to call them, yowies. But they must be extra dimensional because no one's ever caught one. But the biggest difference between David and I is this uniformitarian poison. Other than that, I'm really impressed with my new revelations on the shape changer deal, which you're going to be impressed with too. So that's this. So I mean, he goes into detail about, I don't remember the exact things, but I'm pretty sure I remember he was talking about doppelgangers and changelings and the Native American Wendigo. These are all shape changers of different. That's German folklore. Changelings were in like Eastern European folklore. The Native Americans had many different versions of the Wendigo. You guys all heard about Skinwalker Ranch, which they've over commercialized and just made it ridiculous. But yeah, the Skinwalkers, that was Navajo culture. In Hindu mythology, even in modern times, within 2 years ago, there was a whole rash of YouTube videos. It was scary in India. Or they said there were the Rakshasa had made a comeback. They keep appearing. Rakshasas are shape changers, and they do kidnap humans. So Japanese Mujina, they're all shape changers. Oh, of course you can't. Well, huge center of the world in Middle Earth, all the Arabian traditions, they talk about the jinn. So the jinn could assume as human forms and walk among the people. There's Arabian stories of jinn walking through the markets and shape changing and people tripping out. So it's the same things that we see in our in modern media. So let's look at that. Let's just look at that. Let's see what we got here in modern media. Well, here's a good book. This is in my file, Flying Serpents and Dragons. If you're really interested in this topic of mankind's reptilian past, this is a really good book. I've talked about it a few years ago on my channel, and I've quoted it because R.A. Boole used to be in the intelligence agencies, and he used to work for one of the three big ones, not DOD, but he was a cryptologist. But his personal hobby was chronology. He dated the Exodus exactly, 2448 Anno Mundi, 1447 BC. It's astonishing. But he's R.A. Boole, what is it? He's a U.S. cryptologist working for, it wasn't CIA, it was NSA. I'm sorry, there it is, NSA. But that's him right here, and he did a whole history book on this, and you can see it's pretty compelling. I just want to share this. It really didn't have anything to do with our video, but he just very, very, very well-researched book. But I'm just going to show you that real quick before we move on to what I need to share. So I'm going to share with you guys a video right now. So I'm just prepping you for 5 videos. Just so you'll understand, I ordinarily show photo slides, and it takes a while to get through the photos. So because I'm overwhelming people with information, and each photo's worth 1,000 words, you already know this, I created whole videos in order to show as I give my presentation, because I would never be able to get through this in 6 hours if I just showed individual images. So this is too much. All right, so let's video file. I'll just keep that open. Perfect. Wonderful. So we've all seen the headlines. You guys know. All over social media and YouTube, there's all kinds of videos. We don't have to go through that data here, but you already know it's pretty much in the public sector right now that there's a massive amount of sightings of people who shape change. There's even some accounts right here on the screen, I don't remember which ones, of a woman freaking out on a plane, and they escorted her off the plane. And I remember this one. This one was famous. But they escorted her off the plane because she sat next to a guy and his face shifted, and she freaked the hell out and got up and called. There's a video on it too. I might have a piece of the video here. I'm not sure, but we've all seen it. It's not direct evidence. It's not, but it is interesting. It is very interesting of all the eyewitnesses. So this is Anomalous Rex. This movie came out in 2004, and dinosaurs were integrated into modern society wearing latex masks to appear humanoid, and they secretly coexist with humans. That show that I just showed, I'm going to stop it real quick. You've seen They Live. Anomalous Rex, that show right here. Where is that? Let's go back to that. This show was pulled instantly. Why? Was it a little too close to the truth? Anomalous Rex was about a reptilian race living on Earth among humans, totally disguised in very advanced latex masking. This is what the whole show was about, and they took that shit right off television. Didn't even make it to the season. So it was. I think they took it because it was just a little too close to the truth. It's a great storyline. I don't know why it wouldn't have been successful. That's Anomalous Rex. Then, of course, you have They Live. You guys know 1988. They Live. We're going to go backward in time. So this is Anomalous Rex, and this is They Live. Rowdy Randy Piper. Humans discover the aliens' true appearance through special sunglasses that reveal subliminal messages and the alien skeletal forms beneath their human disguises. An instant hit, but it was quickly pulled from the box office, but it became a cult favorite. Isn't that interesting? Again, They Live is a lot of people's favorite movie. Gone back and watched this I've watched it multiple times. But originally, when it was released, it was pulled from the box office fast. Why? Was it a little too close to the truth? Really, it's really compelling. So I'm going to show you a third example. None of this is direct evidence, but it is interesting. This third example goes further back in time. This third example is a series that came out on television, and everybody loved it. But it just died. For about 15 years, it died, and they didn't make any movies. No more spin-offs, and yet the story was so compelling, but I think they killed it. It did come back, but by the time it came back, everybody was watching Independence Day and Alien Invasions and all that. But you remember this from 1983. V is for visitors. These were a reptilian alien species living among us. Again, wearing sophisticated masks. Like I said, this is not direct evidence. This is just very interesting. Remember, everything's theater. So here in Archaics, we've done 3 or 4 videos showing that it is not theoretical at all that we have underground subterranean bases. Even in the ancient times, there were underground areas and there were reasons why humans were hiding from the surface. There were reasons. Whole communities were built up. 59 underground cities have already been found underneath Turkey, Cappadocia, that whole area. The first one that was found in 1962 was Derinkuyu. And then tunnels from that one led to other ones. And so far, they're at 59 underground communities that have been found. But they've also been found in South America, at Phoenix Hill, underneath Phoenix Hill in China. So these places, it's been widely known, and we've gone through in Archaix, we've gone through the data of the Native American traditions, how they hid from the surface, went into the underworld, and the ant people took them in, nourished them, took care of them until it was time for them to go back home to the surface. We have many traditions that have been shown in Archaix that the human race has for periods of time bed down in the underworld. So this also goes to Nemesis X chronology and the Phoenix chronology. I know there's a lot of new people in my chat today that do not know what we're talking about, but these data sets are immense, and they come with a massive amount of facts, evidence, and well, I mean, it's the same thing as facts, so I don't need to say that. So the drilling, look, the technology exists, the facilities exist, and I've even shown here on my channel that the congressional funding is open. Anybody can see the funding from 1973, 74, and 75, where Congress allocated billions to build these facilities, and they never stopped. So I've also explained how NASA is a psyop, and most of that money goes into underground facilities. So you know that guy there, Phil Schneider. So this is just we're just trying to get through it just to show you this is all real. That there are already people in the underworld thriving in luxury cities is a fact. You got all your billionaire bunkers and you got all your little fallout shelters. You can also go online and you can see that there are several companies dedicated to building underground bunkers for whoever can afford them. All right, so we're done with that. Moving right along. So David Icke started this. He literally started with the whole shape changer narrative. But now we're going to have to, let's remove that. And if there's people new to my channel, this is where you're going to start getting your mind blown. This is another video that we need to get out of the way just to get to where we need to go. All right, so awesome sauce. So all over the world, when one of my moderators please put my video on the tracks. I have one video that shows these tracks. And for those looking at the screen, what you're looking at are vehicle tracks, human footprints of different sizes, and dinosaur prints, all fossilized in the same areas of the world on the surface. Dinosaur prints on the surface, human footprints on the surface, vehicle tracks on the surface, dinosaur skeletons on the surface. So fossilized human prints, dinosaur prints, and petrified vehicle tracks all on the surface and in the same areas of the world, all over Malta, Sardinia, Turkey, Arizona in the United States, and Colorado, Texas, Oregon, Wyoming, and other places. Human artifacts are found in coal seams thousands of feet underground. Process that for a minute. Architecture and artifacts found from 600 to 1,000 feet depth in North America. Dinosaur bones on the surface. So humans, anatomically correct humans with artifacts of metallurgy, bells and spoons and forks and knives, yeah, deeper than dinosaurs. So the dinosaurs end just as fast as they appear. Technologically advanced and primitive humans have existed in our world at the same time, just as we do today. We also lived in the same time as dinosaurs, and it was very recent, as will be proven in this video. So, a modern researcher published a book in 2025 named Skyware. I can't really pronounce his name, but I'm going to quote him. He says, dinosaurs pop into the fossil record like they were dropped from the sky, fully formed and dominating without a whisper of gradual buildup. It's like they were airlifted in. So other researchers seem like dinosaurs may have been dumped here by an extraterrestrial species as terraformers. I don't agree with that, but I do agree with the sentiment, meaning they can't figure out why the fossil record shows punctuated appearances of fully developed dinosaurs and nothing in between. And then human architecture and humans and artifacts, and then another full layer of nothing but dinosaurs, all fully developed with no transitional forms in between. So there are regions in the world, like Africa's Karoo Basin and North America's it's called the Chinle Formation. These are where dinosaurs seem to have appeared in a blink, atop layers of massive die-offs, as if the world went through a cataclysm and it was almost totally destroyed, and then suddenly a layer of dinosaurs is directly on top of it. It's an enigma. It's one that most of the uniformitarian paleontologists don't even want to discuss, but this is what's being found. And it's inexplicable because the theory of natural selection, the theory of the dinosaurs itself millions of years ago, can't be true when these whole areas are found like that. Giant amphibians and reptiles are found in the layer above a massive world destruction. What the hell is going on? So another researcher says that it appears like the dinosaurs were deposited after a cataclysm, quote, like a cleanup crew after a failed prior experiment. I don't agree with that. But I agree with the sentiment. I agree with the fact that there's a mystery here, and they're trying to fill it. Another researcher says that dinosaurs pop up fully formed, no half-baked transitions in sight. But this isn't new. This isn't new. I've got other files full of this stuff and other videos that talk about all this stuff. It's not new. It is very compelling. That's a human footprint and a dinosaur footprint together, what you just saw on the screen. Matter of fact, you see it 2 or 3 times on the screen. Famous in Glen Rose, Texas. I actually went to that museum to see it for myself. So we're going to remove that. We're going to move right on along to some really amazing shit. All right, let's remove that. And let's go to the next contender. Wish StreamYard had a faster way of doing this. So this is the Ubaid period. The Ubaid is really interesting because of the reptilian humanoid figures that are found. This is pre-Sumerian. This is the culture that was right before the Anuna entered the historical record with Enki in 3439 BC, as we've shown in Archaix multiple times. This right here, I'm going to stop. I couldn't even stop the screen fast enough. Let's go back. These are Ubaid figurines. This is one of the oldest Sumerian seals around. The seals have a process of development. They become more and more refined. And you know, I've showed the buckets what the handbag and the pine cone really is. I got a whole video about that showing that the seals actually tell us what they are before all these YouTubers took off on these weird ass theories about handbags and pine cones. It's not. It's a bucket. It's the bucket of the Apkallu left behind by Etana before he ascended into the sky, and he left the divine waters to the 7 kings of the Anuna on the Sumerian king list. The bucket is the symbol of guardianship over kingship, and it's the phoenix palm. They're eating the knowledge of the phoenix palm. The phoenix palm is not. It looks like a pine cone on the bottom, but it's not. The phoenix palm, eating the phoenix palm basically means that they have ingested the knowledge Etana left them, which is all about the phoenix. My Archaix veterans already know that whole the phoenix research will blow your mind. It is amazing. But that's what the seals are really the original seals are conveying. This is older than the Etana seals. This is showing 2 reptilian-like figures right here. I don't know if they're attacking or what. Got something in their hand. I don't know what they're doing, but here's 2 reptilian figures right here on an ancient Sumerian seal. So what you're looking at now is Acambaro, Mexico. In 1911, a mineralogist named William Niven uncovered an undocumented civilization showing men and megafauna coexisted with architecture, pyramids, and mammoths. He was a famous mineralogist, but the establishment scientists, they completely dismissed his discoveries. So in 1944, a Waldemar Julsrand, a German retiring in Mexico in the same vicinity of Akamaro, accidentally discovered some ceramic and stone figures in the sand. It ended up being about 34,000 relics of ceramics, stone, and carved jade, including obsidian knives sharper than steel, figurines of blacks, orientals, and bearded white people. The styles are vaguely similar to ancient Egyptian and Sumerian. Go back and look at that again. Figurines of Bigfoot type creatures and giant reptiles, many eating people. Also, there are depictions in the Acambaro figurines of sexual activities between animals and humans, all excavated from the side of Bull Mountain. Among the artifacts was excavated the teeth from an extinct Ice Age horse and the skeleton of a mammoth. Among the Acambaro figurines, there is a child playing with a baby Apatosaurus, warriors fighting off a Tyrannosaurus, and even what looks like a plesiosaur being fished from a lake. These are detailed, with some dinosaurs showing feathers and scales. Adding to the controversy is the fact of a figurine of a Styxosaurus, a marine creature not even discovered till the 1950s. Among the Acambaro figurines are scaled, skinned humans with raptor legs, very reptilian features. This is in the Acambaro collection from Mexico. In 1955, the renowned professor and author of Path to the Pole and Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, the famous Professor Charles Hapgood, he went to Acambaro, Mexico to study the collection of 33,500 artifacts that existed at the time. In his book, Mystery of Acambaro, Professor Hapgood concluded the relics were real. This is what he wrote about the Acambaro culture. He said they did not bury their dead. He said they did possess the bow and arrow. Oh, excuse me. He said they did not possess the bow and arrow. There's this book right there. They did not possess the bow and arrow. They used spears, daggers, and clubs. They knew nothing of textiles, clothes. They made unpainted pottery, but they're not classified as pre-pottery Neolithic. No knowledge of agriculture because everything grew. Everything they needed to eat was around. They lived during a vapor canopy period. They had close relationship with animals. They domesticated large animals and reptiles. They even had pet dogs. These people were just like us. They were just like us, except, maybe not screwing reptiles. But then again, just like us. So some people, they kind of get out of control in farmsteads. So Teledyne's Isotopes Laboratory dated the artifacts no older than 4,500 BC. The University of Pennsylvania radiocarbon dated the artifacts at 4,400 BC to 1,500 BC. University of Pennsylvania thermoluminescence dating targeted the artifacts at 2,500 BC. Ohio State University lab conducted thermoluminescence dating on the artifacts and produced dates of 2,700 BC. This was confirmed by carbon-14 testing of organic material found with the relics that gave dates of 1,100 to 4,500 years in age. This means the Akamaro figurines of dinosaurs dated from the Dark Ages back to 2,500 BC. One museum curator was even fired for revealing that carbon-14 tests dated the Acambaro artifacts to 2000 BC. So, none of these dates are in the hundreds of thousands of years. None of these dates are in the millions of years. What are humans doing so recently designing artwork, of anatomically correct prehistoric creatures, even creatures that weren't discovered by science till after these were excavated from Mexico. But the story of Acambaro continues in 2020 when the whole world changed. As the scandemic unfolded, near Acambaro, Mexico, were discovered dinosaurs, the actual dinosaur bones. They were located on the surface. The locals claimed that the bones buzzed peculiarly, a loud buzzing sound every time there were electrical storms. So researchers went out there and they gathered the dinosaur bones, and tests were conducted, and they were shocked to find that the bones emitted gamma radiation, spiking at frequencies that matched particle accelerators. So dinosaur bones found in Mexico, right next to a site of all kinds of dinosaurs created by human hands, and very recently on the surface were contaminated with gamma radiation. Now, Nemesis X brings gamma saturation, as we will show in this video. It is very peculiar to the Nemesis X object. So why were dinosaur bones emitting gamma radiation signatures? So we're going to move on to the next series right after the Acambaro figurines are done with. We're going to go into the Girafalco artifacts. These were found in Italy. Let's see where they at. We should be getting to them right now. It's hard to tell. Here they are, right here. These artifacts here. Mario Azzariti in 1971 found these artifacts. Looks like a stegosaurus after a landslide in southern Italy in 1971. These are called the Girafalco artifacts. We'll look at them one more time. That's part of the collection right there. That's a part of the collection too. That's not. There we go, right here. Girafalco artifacts found from a landslide in 1971 in southern Spain. Excuse me, southern Italy. The discoverer was Mario Azzariti. Can't make this shit up. So after this, you're going to see these stones right here are the Icke stones. They are a recent discovery too of the 20th century by Dr. Javier Cabrera. And these South American relics are engraved with scenes of humans hunting, riding, and even performing surgery on dinosaurs. Triceratops charging at spear-wielding warriors. Stegosaurus being herded like cattle. These stones match modern dinosaur anatomy that was not known back then. The Icke stones of Peru were examined in a lab and found to have patina, a natural coating suggesting age, not fresh carvings. So another lab in Bonn, Germany examined the stones and confirmed they are not forgeries. Go back and look at that again. The lab discovered microflora and oxidation layers consistent with centuries of burial. In 1988, a mineralogist studied the relics and determined there were no modern tool marks. Also, primitive farmers could not have forged them because some of the dinosaurs depicted like Diplodocus. There you go, Diplodocus are virtually unknown outside of paleontology. This is the guy here, Dr. Cabrera. It's amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing. So These stones are actually dated from 1100 to 1600 years ago, which places them right in the middle of the Dark Ages. Now, also of great interest, we have on record, and I believe Charles Hapgood talks about this, but we have on record that the Spanish conquistadors were perplexed by stones that they found with dragons and giant lizards and stuff like that on the stones, and they sent some by ship back to Spain, but it's only in the memoirs of conquistadors that the actual stones have never been found. But it's interesting that we do have a historical citation of the discoveries of these stones for over 400 years ago. So it was probably a different collection, or all of them hadn't been found yet. So now we're going to move into Dark and Middle Ages art. Some of you hold on to your hats. Archaics veterans, you're going to love this because you've never seen many of these pictures before. I have much new. Since my last videos weeks ago, we have a whole lot of new specimens to look at that are fantastic. Dark and Middle Ages art. Let's get to it. This is from the Book of Wonders. This is a Native American totem pole showing dinosaurs. It's just a wooden totem pole. We have pottery. Might be Stegosaurus. Dinosaurs fighting each other. Dragons. This is from Tapram in Cambodia. It's the Tapram temple. This is a Christian church that shows a dragon. There's the Stegosaurus on the Angkor Wat prom deal. This is one of the Stegosaurus creatures. Here's a reptilian figurine holding on to a human like the human is property. And it's at Oxford University. Here's a whole bunch of examples. We're going to go through them real fast because it's still not the subject matter of this video. Here's a whole bunch of examples from around the world of artwork showing humans understood dinosaur anatomy. Look at the size of this. It's a vapor canopy bug. Zoo will eat the bugs and zoo will like it. Again, a lot of this artwork is in medieval churches. Churches all over Europe. Now look at this. That's prehistoric creature. Prehistoric creatures right there. Stegosaurus. Looks like somebody tried to chip it out. These are grindles. They were supposed to be reptiles that the Vikings fought. Remember, the early Christian churches are really weird, man. They're really weird. You got all these saints with X-Men abilities, and it's just really weird, man. All the Christian knights were battling demons and lizards and snakes and crocodiles and dragons. This is a church. Look at this. Look at that. Over and over and over, guys. It's a massive amount of human artifacts have been found showing that before dinosaurs were even theorized in the 1800s, over 1,000 years before that, men were already making clay, ceramic, jade, and stone 3D images of anatomically correct dinosaurs. We've been sold some bullshit. Church art, medieval church art. There's so many, guys. It's going to blow your mind. It's just so many. Look at these brontosauruses on a church. What? Why would you put brontosauruses on a church? There's the Vikings. You know, we just recently did a video. I explained to you who the Vikings were coming out the Dark Ages. Look at those Stegosauruses. Perfect Stegosauruses. Look at that, man. It's crazy. You know, there's accounts in the 1800s of people shooting down pterodons and pterodactyls. Let's go back to this real quick. There's a lot of petroglyphs that show this right here. You have two different petroglyphs here. This one right here is from North America. This one right here. But it's not the only one. There's a bunch of them. What is an avian? An avian is a modified reptile. So eating people. Right here, you have a giant winged creature like a rock at Catalhuyuk. This is Turkey taking the head off a man. These aren't old. So in the medieval period, we got the Dark Age and medieval period is really weird shit. What kind of world was the Dark Ages that when that period was over, the world was full of large, violent reptiles, giant snails, violent mammals? What kind of world was the Dark Ages if the Middle Ages was a cleanup period and the Vikings were doing it? You guys know our show, man. The Viking. We're going to get into it too. We're going to talk about Beowulf here in a minute and how it all fits together. But the Middle Age, the period of time between the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, all of a sudden humans started coming from somewhere and started cleaning things up, and they had to clean out the swamps, the fens, the bogs. They had to do all these things. It was a very weird, unusual time. And Christianity seems to be super infant, nothing like we're told that the first 5 centuries were, almost as if the first 5 centuries Christianity didn't even exist, and that we've been told a lie. These texts were all written actually in the 13, 14, and 1500s. Jesus was Lord of the mushrooms in the Dark Age period, bleeding into the Middle Ages. All the churches were adorned with large plants, insects, lizards, large reptiles, dragons, gargoyles, demons, and mushrooms were everywhere. This isn't the model of history that we're told, but it's the one we find. What kind of world was the Dark Ages that mushrooms grew to gigantic sizes? What kind of world was that? It's people tell you all the time in social media that everything you've been told is a lie, and you basically have to believe that. The truth can be found, and we've talked about that in Archaics too. There are things that can be true, especially in chronological systems. You can know the year, you can know exactly, but you can also see the evidence of where they have lied about what happened in those years. What you're looking at on the screen right now is a massive amount of Roman artifacts that have been found in North America. The Romans were here so much that they left so much material, so many inscriptions. The back and forth between the Mediterranean and North America was phenomenal. And if every bit of this is true, as you're seeing here in these archaeological monographs, if the Romans left all these coins, artifacts, weapons, and all that, and everything is anatomically correct, there's a chicken right there. Everything, that's a man's head and face. It's anatomically correct. If everything is accurate, then why are we going to disbelieve what the Romans put on their weapons? Because Roman weapons have ornamentation showing anatomically correct dinosaurs. Why are we going to accept all these artifacts as of Roman provenance and that they're here in North America, they've been excavated, and then turn around and then gaslight people saying, well, that's just ornamental? How did they know what an anatomically correct brontosaurus looked like? How did they know? So we'll stop right there for a second. We've all heard of the Loch Ness Monster, plesiosaurs. We've all heard about the eyewitness accounts. And yes, there's many naysayers. But the truth of the matter is Scotland has like 60 different lochs and lakes where these creatures have been seen over a 2,000-year period. So it's not just, they've been seen all over the world. Here's proof right here. The plesiosaurs are everywhere. This is Australia. That's a plesiosaur. Let's go back. You didn't get to see that one long enough. That is a plesiosaur or plesiosaur, however you say it. This is Australian art. You cannot mistake the shape of that creature. Can't do it. All in artwork. This is Byzantine artwork. This is an effigy mound. This is an Indian mound in Ohio. Here's a plesiosaur on Roman art. Look at this. We'll go back, look at that again. I went through these too fast, didn't I? What was this? What was that? Okay, this is a painting. It's a castle. There's a human right there. There's a plesiosaur right there. Oh, this is Pompeii. Yeah, this is what was found. You know, Mount Vesuvius buried Pompeii, but on a frieze in Pompeii, there's a plesiosaur or a plesiosaur. There's Nessie. Oh, Nessie. So in the medieval times, we just have all these random, we have all these random pieces of artwork showing that they believe that monsters exist. This is a good book, goes into a lot of detail, like Beowulf does on these monsters. Here's a map of all the lakes in England that show recent activity of plesiosaurs, Loch Ness monster type creatures. So all over the world, these petroglyphs, the artwork, it's inescapable. It's all cultures. It's all over the world, and it's always on the surface. Look at this. It's crazy. You just can't make this shit up. You just can't make this shit up. But now I'm about to blow some of you are going to have your wigs blown back seeing this next part, because it is astonishing. Pretty little Bronto. That's the Babylonian Surush. Those are, they say those are the Surush. They say that was some type of prehistoric creature. Looks just like a reptile. You are looking at a famous painting, and it's a painting uniformitarians don't want you to know. It's from 1562, and it's by Jan Brygel the Elder. He painted this battle. Clearly shows brontosauruses right here in the background. I'm gonna blow it up for you. Critics claim now they're just camels, but camels are nowhere near this huge. And this same painter, having lived after the Crusades and had a lot of contact with camels, has other paintings with camels in it, and he knows how to paint an anatomically correct camel. What he painted in this picture is brontosauruses. There's even a tail right here where my cursor is. This right here, when you blow it up, it is a gigantic snake right here. But let's see. Let's go and move this forward. This is Jan Brygel the Elder's painting from 1562. Look at those. Those are brontosauruses. They're huge. You can see them more clearly right here. You see the top of them here. His other work shows camels. Like, he painted this perfect camel. He knows what camels look like. It's a dumb argument. Camels are so much smaller than what we saw. This is from 1977. This plesiosaur was found already dead by a Japanese fishing trawler. The Japanese were so proud. This is the dude on the boat drew it. And then they made a stamp out of it in Japan. Now, Occidental scientists and establishment, they're always going to tell you it's bullshit. It was some type of mule shark or something like that. But they always do that. Remember what I told you in the 1800s, they knew they had to get on top of all this BS. They knew that as infrastructures and humans are going to start spreading around and building infrastructure, they're going to find all kinds of things that do not fit with the model they're doing. So the uniformitarian network was laid out to force fit interpretations of phenomena. So anyway, let's see. So we're done with that video, and we're moving right along. I don't have time today to indulge the chat, so I hope everything's going okay in there. Oh yeah, what all this has to do with shape changers is going to become very apparent through the presentation. We're an hour in. So let's see. I want to real quick. I want to show. Let me find one example of for you guys to see, only because it will reinforce what we're talking about. All right. So it's not a good example. I just snatched it. Let's go with all right. Share this window. Like I said, it's not a real good example, but this is in South America. Some of you know how to say and know how to pronounce that place. I really don't. But this it's basically the fact that we're dealing with dinosaurs. We're dealing with prehistoric creatures. They're not even prehistoric. They're modern. But all throughout history, we've had to build gigantic constructions to keep them under control. Megalithic fortresses to protect our children. The hundreds of sites of megalithic walls and giant cyclopean masonry, they show evidence of having fallen and been damaged in earthquakes, not siege warfare. Who builds enormous stone constructions all over the world but doesn't use them in warfare? So the isolated megalithic settlements found all over the world in hard to reach and almost inaccessible places where you got to go up all these mountains and all that, humans were building where they knew they could find safe refuge. So it only makes sense if the inhabitants wanted to create safety areas where the gigantic beasts were not a threat. Below, in the jungles, under the timberline, there were fens and bogs and swamps and rainforests, and these creatures could be hunted, they could be captured, they could be domesticated. But humans didn't want to live among them, so they built in inaccessible places these massive, massive walled enclosures, cyclopean masonry, and this would answer for all these enigmas that we keep asking questions about, but we never provide answers. So now we're going to go. I just want to share that thought, but now we're going to go into something that's going to blow your mind because it blew mine. Let's look at maps. Let's look and see what these maps are showing us. Sure, I got another video. So you're looking at Greenland with no ice. This is a map of Greenland right here. You can even see the name of it right there in Old Icelandic. This is the island of Greenland, which is today covered in a 1.5 mile thick ice pack, which the coasts in a lot of these little islands and mountain chains, rivers would not be known because they're under ice pack. But this is Greenland. Anyway, it's called the Xeno map. This is Greenland right here as well. Look at all the detail. Whoops, we went a little too far. We went a little too far. Look at all the detail. You can't see that detail today. It's under 1.5 miles, sometimes 2 miles of ice pack. Now here's where the mystery deepens, because in World War II, we had the Lost Squadron. They had to land in Greenland as an emergency in July 1942. Here they are. This is where it gets very, very interesting. So all the craft, they safely land, and they're discovered 50 years. Well, they're discovered 48 years later, but they're actually excavated 50 years later. 50 years later, they are found at a depth of 268 feet. This is a huge blow to uniformitarian Ice Age dating. Huge blow. Look at the screen. World War II planes making emergency landing on Greenland ice pack in July 1942. In 1992, these aircraft were dug out at a depth of 268 feet of ice pack. This is 50 years. So 50 years equals 268 feet depth. Greenland ice pack is 1 mile to 1.5 miles in thickness above the ground. 1 mile to 1.5 miles is 5,280 to 7,920 feet depth, making the average depth of the ice pack to be 6,600 feet. 6,600 feet divided by 268 feet depth of planes is 24.6. So 50 years, which is 268 feet, times 24.6 is 1,230 years. 2026 AD minus 1,230 years of ice accrual means there was no ice on Greenland before 796 AD. You can give or take a few years forward or backward, but the point I'm making here is there was no ice on Greenland in the Dark Ages. And by extension, there probably wasn't any ice on Antarctica either in the Dark Ages, as we'll see now. This is the Piri-Reis map, 1513, I believe. Not really sure. This map is famous simply because this is Antarctica showing the rivers. This is Antarctica showing the coastlines, showing mountains and rivers going in the interior. Also, it has depictions of animals and ships. What are ships doing sailing the coasts of Antarctica? This is a famous map. It's a very controversial map, but it's also deflection, meaning a lot of guys in the field like Graham Hancock and others will draw your attention to this as being truly mysterious about Antarctica, but the focus on the Piri-Reis map is misdirection. It's total. They want you to focus on it because it's already been discovered. It's already been released in the field. So they don't want you digging any further. They want you to know about the Piri-Reis map. Okay, it shows Atlantis. It shows Antarctica no ice. Graham Hancock is going to gaslight you, as I've talked to you guys about before, and tell you that these are copies of copies of copies of copies of copies going all the way back to the Ice Ages 12,000 years ago. It's total BS. It's total BS. What's being done here is misdirection because there are other maps that give you the business of what the uniformitarians are truly trying to hide and how this applies to our topic of shape changers. Damn it. Hit my leg. All right. Oh, I don't know what happened. I redid the video. Let me move forward. Get all the way back to where I was. I don't know how that happened. Okay. So the Piri Reis map is not the mystery. I'm telling you now. This next map from 1531, this is the Phineas, the Orontes Phineas map. It's pretty interesting because it shows, let's go back to that. It's pretty interesting because it shows Antarctica here, and it too shows it without ice. Rivers going in, extreme detail on the coastlines, and this is also widely believed to be another map that shows no ice on Antarctica. So it also shows the Hudson Bay, and it shows all of Greenland without any coastalized. Greenland's on here too, no ice. So, but it too has already been, it's already known by the truther community about this. It's already been known since maps of the ancient sea kings. So we're going to show some maps today that they're not telling you about. This map here is incredible. This map here literally shows Antarctica as a continental-sized mass at the bottom. Look at it. It's massive. No ice whatsoever on this map. This is from the 1500s. There is no ice anywhere on the, but the entire topography of the world is very different. The style of the ships are Dark Age. This is Dark Age artwork, these ships. By the Renaissance period, we had way more sophisticated than these little ships. What's amazing, no ice in Canada. The entire Canadian, all up here is nothing. Alaska, no ice. No ice in the north of Russia, nothing. This is really unusual. I can't blow this up because this is a video, not an image. What's really unusual, but I will post these. You guys already know. A lot of the images you're seeing in this video will be on my X account, posted for the public to see. You can get them on the X account, and some of them, I guess I can post some of them in the arcade, in the community too. But this is going to blow your mind. Areas, the Great Lakes are not here. The Great Lakes are nowhere here. There's no ice anywhere in the entire world. Remember what I've told you in the Archaics model. There's only two phases our world's ever going to be in. We're either going to be in an ice age or we're going to be in a vapor canopy. This is the true history of the world. The reason we have polar caps with 1.5 mile high ice caps right now is because that is the vapor canopy, but it's now in crystal form. It is now at the poles. It's frozen. And it's been there ever since the collapse of the vapor canopy. So these periods, we're in an ice age right now. How do we know? Because all these old maps show us that in the Dark Ages, we were not in an ice age. So we were in a vapor canopy period. That's when all the moisture at the poles is now melted and it's back in the mesosphere. When we have an aquatic atmosphere that increases our atmospheric pressure, changes all kinds of things in the human genome, changes everything in reptiles, amphibians, fish, insects. It's amazing what we're finding. So here is a map of what the world looked like in the Dark Ages. Europe was very different. So many differences all throughout this map. So let me move on. Oh, but here's Antarctica, and Antarctica is full of life. You can't really see it here, but there are all kinds of animals down here in Antarctica. All kinds of flora and fauna and ships visiting Antarctica down here at the bottom. And this is where it gets super badass. This map here is so incredible, I had to blow it up. I had to blow up a whole bunch of different pieces of this map for you to see. Let's see, this map here, it's like 1563, I believe. We're going to go through it. This map is 10 feet across. That's how big this map is. It's 10 feet across. It's a huge map. If you noticed, back here, look at Antarctica. All of Antarctica is a ring around the whole map, and there's no ice. And there's ships going out to Antarctica. And Antarctica has people and creatures all over it. I'm going to have to blow them up and show them to you. This is Antarctica right here. We got birds. We got things that look like crocodiles. And you got two dinosaurs right here fighting each other. Can't make this shit up. This is a map from the 1560s. Two dinosaurs on an ice-free Antarctica. Let's keep going. Giant crocodile. There's the blow up of the two dinosaurs. There's another dinosaur, a different kind. This is all Antarctica. There's another dinosaur. There's people up there. There's people up there. Humans. Here's another dinosaur and look like a mammal. This is Antarctica, a map of Antarctica in the 1560s. Look at the size of that rock carrying that elephant off. Did you see that? It's amazing. Did you see that? So crazy. This is all in the perimeter in Antarctica. We're gonna show that rock again. A gigantic winged creature carrying an elephant off. There's people up here. No ordinary mammals. So if you've got ordinary deer, cows, foxes, sheep, if you've got ordinary animals, alligators in here, then why isn't everything else correct as well? Camel or a emu. Look at a gigantic bird carrying that elephant. Here's the Bosch map. So the Bosch map is another very interesting map. The reason the Bosch map is so stunning is because you're looking at Antarctica as it truly is. Most people think it's a supercontinent down there, but only recently did ground penetrating or ice penetrating radar confirm that Antarctica is in two pieces. So I don't know how true that is, but they're saying the Bosch map right here, which is hundreds of years old, actually accurately depicts Antarctica as it is under the ice pack, because it really is two separate bodies. So I don't know if it's true or not, but they're saying it is, and this is a map hundreds of years old that shows Antarctica as two separate land masses. So you've seen a massive amount of pretty interesting shit here. So before we go into the next phase of this presentation, you just saw direct, tangible, worldwide evidence that humans, dinosaurs, and technological vehicle tracks have been petrified on the surface all over the world, and often together. You just saw dinosaur remains and skeletons are on the surface. Some dinosaur remains give off gamma radiation. Human artifacts are found deep underground. Human architecture is found deep underground. You see scientists who have theorized that it's so bizarre, it almost seems like the world gets destroyed, and then somebody comes and deposits dinosaurs everywhere as a cleanup crew, as a carry-on crew, or something. They're just theorizing because that's what it looks like. So we enter, you see the pottery, you've seen the petroglyphs, the artifacts, things of utilitarian value, spoons, forks, clay, pots, all these things, dinosaur handles, ornate boxes, arcs that have dinosaurs. Churches had them adorned all over. You see this all over the world. It's being hidden from you. And all I want you to do is just entertain this. What you just saw here in one video, like almost 1,000 pictures, is only what we've been allowed to find. Imagine everything that's been destroyed. Imagine everything that's been buried in resets and we can't recover them. Imagine all the buildings that have been torn down that tell the story. I just showed you what I was able to find, and others who've been helping me in acquiring this data. But it's a very compelling case based off the tiny little insignificant amount of proof that's actually out there. I was able to put all that together in one presentation for you. So you can imagine how much is really out there that is being hidden from us. So now, let's move on to the next phase. What file is this? All right, let me share my screen again. All right. The Dark Ages. So we're going to go through these rather quickly because there's no reason to really dwell on this. But for those to understand what we're looking at in the near future, what these shape changers are really preparing for, you've got to understand the past. So we'll go through this really quick. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is just the 552-year cycle of the Phoenix. It's called the Phoenix cycle. It's very well documented. I know some of you are new to my channel and don't know what the hell we're talking about. My Archaix veterans in the chat will tell you quickly that I have already made my case over and over and over and over in published books and hundreds of videos showing that the ancient world feared this cycle. They knew all about this cycle, and that the Roman Catholic Church hid it when they created the very calendar that you're living in right now, the Anno Domini calendar. This is a Phoenix cycle chart, and it clearly shows that a massive event happened in 522 AD. On the Phoenix timeline, 522 AD was a massive event right here. So moving on. If we look at the Archaics world chronological chart that shows all the reset protocols, all the Phoenix, all the Nemesis X, Mayan long count, the Anuna Nur, cursed earth system, everything is here. My Archaics veterans understand this chart very well. But again, we have 522 AD is the only year in history the Phoenix and Nemesis X object appear at the same time. The papacy designs the Anno Domini calendar to hide major reset and bury the memory of the Phoenix cycle. It is 522. Here is the only year in history Phoenix, the red dot, the red spheres, and Nemesis X, the black spheres, ever visit the same year. To show how important this is, I have shown my community that going 10,000 years into the past from 522 AD and going about 8,000 years into the future from 522 AD, these two events never happen again. This is the one year in world history where both the Phoenix and Nemesis X appeared in our skies, and it's recorded in the historical record, as I've shown many times on my channel. This is the beginning of the 25-year Great Justinian Darkness period. All kinds of sky fallout. 2 sky dragons appeared in the sky. There was disease, chaos. People were losing their minds, and it is the beginning of the Dark Ages period. So we move on. This is not the Phoenix timeline. This is the Nemesis X timeline. It's very unique. It's very unique. These are the exact dates Nemesis X appears. When it appears, it's here for 60 years. Every one of these white diamonds you see, that's a 60-year period. This is perihelion. Aphelion is 732 years it's gone. Then it's back for 60 years. Then it's gone for 732 years. Then it's back for 60 years. The Phoenix chronology of 138-year visitations and the Nemesis X chronology of 792-year visitations, punctuated by a 60-year perihelion period, answers for almost every enigma of the ancient world, as I've shown on my channel. So this is to show you that Nemesis X is on the Nemesis X timeline. 522 AD is a major event on the Nemesis timeline. Now, we've already been through that. Again, here's a different way of looking at it. The past is the future. The Dark Ages was a vapor canopy and civilization was interrupted. Once the canopy collapsed back into the ice caps, civilization advanced toward the next cataclysm canopy cycle, which is where we're almost at now. Here's 522. Right there. Remember, if something is true, you're always going to be able to see it from different mathematical vantage points. This entire cycle period that we're in right now literally follows the Ubaid Acambaro cycle that's right here. The Ubaid Acambaro artifacts I showed you of the reptilian figures of the pre-Sumerian Ubaid culture are right here in this small circle. The Akamaro artifacts are right here at at the end of this 1200 cycle. Those artifacts I showed you of reptilian figures and humans interacting with dinosaurs is in this yellow circle here. It was a dark age. The dark age is the little circle. Then the age of enlightenment and growth and development until the end of the cycle, which is cataclysm, is 1200 years. This is the ancient world cycle, as I have proven and shown ad nauseum in my presentations. Only recently did I discover that it is the same cycle we are in right now. This is a duplicate of what happened in the ancient world, with the Vikings coming out the Dark Ages being the very same as the mariners of the Anuna under Enki, Enoch, Oannes, Vulcan, Etana. These ancient mariners brought men who exchanged knowledge for human females. The tradition in the Enochian version is that the Watchers arrived from Mount Ardun. This is what we have. We have a technologically advanced civilization going into the underworld knowing what's about to happen. And then they wait a few years after all the fallout's over and they come to the top and everybody's living in primitivism now. But they have a problem. They're fighting large lizards. There's big old mushrooms around. A vapor canopy begins when a cataclysm is over. Once the cataclysm is done, the vapor canopy sets in and the Ice Age vapor canopy cycle continues. The survivors from the underworld have their infrastructure and technology intact, and they come to the surface to help rebuild and all that. Well, the Vikings performed that role. First thing they did was sanitize. They went in there and started killing all. This is in Beowulf. We're going to get to that in a minute. But they began killing all the beasts. This is what the whole story of Beowulf was. He traveled hundreds of miles to go visit a foreign king to get rid of the reptiles that was plaguing the Danes under King Hrothgar. So the Vikings are the mariners that fill this cycle, just like the mariners of the Anuna fill the old cycle. Let's move to the next one. Here is 522 AD again. These are the 552-year periods and showing how each one of these major cataclysms in antiquity has forged human history. The 552-year cycle answers for the rise and fall of civilizations. I have many other charts that show the distribution of megaliths and how the 552-year cycle answers for that. I have other charts that show literacy. Everywhere our scientists say that we were the most literate and then something happened and everybody's illiterate again. I show that too, and it fits perfectly with the 552-year cycle. So this is... Okay, here's a real good 500. You see the 552s down here, 1656 years. For those of you who are new to my channel and you know your Bible, you know that the pre-flood world was 1656 years. What you probably didn't know is that it's 552 years times 3. It's 3 cycles. From Adam and Eve in Genesis to Noah and the Great Flood was 1656 years. Whether it's true history, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter at all. It's the fact that it was recorded it was recorded. These were calendrical things that were recorded for us. 522 AD right here, the Great Anno Domini reset, hidden by the papacy to edit out memory of the 552-year Phoenix cycle. Only time in history Phoenix and Nemesis X appear in the same year. So I'm trying to get through these charts fast because we need to get to the shape changer material. Now, what happened in 522 AD? This is what we really need to discuss. What exactly happened that, oh, there it is right there. I missed I knew I had it here a second ago. I'm going the wrong direction. So, in a nutshell, when Nemesis X appears and Phoenix appeared at the same time, it was basically a quaternary field. Each one of these, I don't care if your model is flat Earth. I don't care if your model is that you live on a globe and you think Phoenix is a planet and Nemesis X is a planet. I don't care what your model is. We have to judge all things by their effects. And the effect is the presence of something that appears in our sky. Whether our sky is holographic, real, or in a simulation, none of that matters. All that matters is that these things appear in the sky, they're optically viewed, they're known in a field. They carry their own fields with them, just like the terrasphere, what we call home. Our world has a field as well. Nemesis X field brings a field and it does something to our world, to amphibians, fish, reptiles, and insects. Phoenix field is always depositing red rain, red mud, red earth, insect larvae, and all kinds of weird, carbonaceous material from the sky. I know people new to my channel think this is all insane, but it's all very well documented. So Nemesis X and Phoenix arrive in 522 AD, and it is the one period of the history that creates all the problems. It's called the Dark Ages. This right here describes a tertiary field. On the right is Earth. On the left is Nemesis X. During those 60-year periods, Nemesis X creates what's called a tertiary field. The tertiary field is when men and materials can be exchanged between fields. It's also the area where there's an amalgamation of information in living organisms, where I'm just going to put it out there. This is where your dormant and your latent DNA strands are activated. They cannot activate in the terrasphere. There's something different in Nemesis X, but when the tertiary field is here, this is when humans make changes. And those those who adapt thrive. Those who don't adapt, they just kind of fade away. So let's get out of here. All right. Some of you are already making the connection on shape changers. I know you are. So, all right. File 6. Let me go find this file 6, because we're going to get into the business now. All right, so I just showed you the chronology of Nemesis X, and it just so happens to be with the Phoenix, both of them 522 AD. Let's look at the same chronology, but let's add theoretical and astrophysicist Paul LaViolette's gamma radiation research. Let's add it to the chart and see, and let's add it to the chronology of Nemesis X and see what we see. Remember, the Akamaro dinosaur artifacts are irradiating so much gamma radiation, it is equal to what is done at particle accelerators. So let's look. This may just give us a whole new idea of what the hell those particle accelerators are trying to achieve. All right, let's see. So let's look at that. Share my screen. All right, let's do it. This is the Nemesis chronology. Overlaid. Every red little egg you see here is the 60-year Nemesis aphelion period. It is a tertiary field of Nemesis X overlaid over the Terra field. During this 60-year periods, all kinds of things happen on Earth. This is the egg. So the first thing you're going to notice here, let me move this out of my way. The first thing you're going to notice, look to the far left. So I do want to remind you the Acambaro dinosaur bones were contaminated with gamma radiation. This isn't a coincidence. So let's go ahead and look at the Nemesis X chronology chart with the research. This is the research. At the bottom, you can see his name, Paul LaViolette, PhD. He's got some awesome books. This comes out of Earth Under Fire book. I have it in my library. Also, he doesn't talk about it in there, but we're talking about a man with a mind that is extraordinary, and he talks about these interacting fields. His book is very rare. It's not easy to get. At least it wasn't back then. You may be able to get one now, but if you guys are really interested in understanding a different mechanistic theory of how reality really works, his book is called Subquantum Kinetics, and it's fascinating. But subquantum kinetics goes into a lot of field theory and all that, but we're not going to talk about, we're talking about Earth Under Fire, the gamma radiation research. Is what we're talking about here. So Nemesis X first appearance coincides with LaViolette's first gamma saturation event. This is the Ubaid period, 3500 BC. Look at the far left. That's Ubaid period. I just showed you the reptilian statues. Why were humans making statues of reptoid figures? They look human, they just had reptilian features. But this is the Ubaid period, and it's the Ubaid period that's right before Enki appears with the Anuna mariners, and they build civilization in the 35th century BC. That's the Ubaid period. And if you can see at the bottom, you can't miss it. These red lines, oops, I gave that away, didn't I? These red lines on the bottom, those are Paul LaViolette's approximates for gamma radiation saturations of our world. These red lines on the bottom. So the first one that he found is right here in the Ubaid period. The second one he found is in the Acambaro period. I just showed you all the artifacts from the Acambaro period where humans were making pots and figurines of anatomically correct dinosaurs. Here it is. So this is 2900 BC period. It matches the Acambaro, Mexico artifacts, which is very close to the Nemesis X appearance of 2707 BC. Look how close it is to that to the actual date. 2707 right here is the actual date of Nemesis X. This is his approximate date for another gamma saturation of our world. The next one is 1100 BC right here. 1100 BC, not a coincidence. The Chinese historians have documented a widespread depopulation at this period. In tradition, the mandate of heaven changed over China. They rebelled against their own emperor. 250,000 Chinese in Chinese tradition were banished. It is said that they took to ships. How interesting! After all these Nemesis cataclysms are attached to mariner stories. So they took to ships and they disappeared. Now, in the Archaics research, we showed where they reappeared. They reappeared in Pacific Mexico. And then it took about 45 to 55 years for them to relocate from Pacific Mexico to the Yucatan, where they became the Olmeca, the predecessors of the Maya. Now, starting at about 500 AD, look at this. You cannot miss this. I know a bunch of you are already looking. Here's the Dark Ages. This is Paul LaViolette's gamma radiation saturation of our world during the entire Dark Ages. Keep in mind, this PhD physicist doesn't even know the Archaics research, has no idea of anything about the Nemesis X chronology. Totally independent data set. Here it is right here. So starting at about 500 AD, the entire Dark Ages is gamma saturated, ending about 1030 AD. So from 522, there was a 500-year period of gamma saturation. This would be our Vapor Canopy period. This is where there is no ice in Greenland and no ice in Antarctica. This is when those maps were made. So one more gamma spike is about 1300 AD, and this is not a coincidence either, because it was at this time that 1/3 of the entire world's population either died or disappeared. And we are told by our historians it was the Great Black Death Plague. So whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it fits the historical model. So this isn't evidence, but it's curious. It's very curious. Someone else brought it to my attention, because I don't nerd out like this, but somebody else brought it to my attention that Bruce Banner was the victim of gamma radiation. There's many different types of radiation, but he was the victim of gamma radiation, giving him the ability to become the Hulk. The Hulk is the mightiest of the radiation-afflicted superheroes. The others are the Fantastic Four. Remember I told you about Jesus, Lord of the Mushroom? During that period, all the saints of the church had super X-Men abilities. It was so weird. So it's like Christianity, which is supposed to have began in the 2nd century AD, 3rd century AD. By the 4th, they had advanced apologetics, and by the 5th century AD, that Christianity and all its doctrines were pretty much set in stone, and they had won the war against the Gnosis, against Gnosticism. They had turned what was spiritual into something carnal. They had. So I'm not going to get into all that, but still, isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how 500 years later, all of a sudden Christianity is super juvenile, super stupid, and there's almost no Christian texts? Yeah, it's called the end of the Dark Ages, beginning of the Middle Ages, and all the churches had demons, gargoyles, giant mushrooms. Jesus was Lord of the mushrooms. All the artwork was of serpents and dragons, and knights and saints were famous for going out and fighting monsters. So weird. Also, Spider-Man, radioactive spider bite. Daredevil, radioactive chemical agent. So, I mean, it's just, this isn't proof of anything. This is DC Comics or Marvel Comics, one of them. I don't remember which one it is. But we have some other things to look at. So look at immune system stimulation, theoretical low-dose research on gamma radiation. This is acknowledged by science. Some studies suggest that extremely low doses of gamma radiation, I guess that's radiation hormesis, I don't know, might stimulate the immune system or enhance DNA repair mechanism in cells. Positive effect. This is still controversial and not widely accepted, but some research indicates potential benefits like increased resistance to disease or improved cellular repair in very controlled low-dose scenarios. Now, I'm going to have to temper that with the fact that they're talking about in the field as it stands today. Everything science does today, if they're not going to replicate vapor canopy conditions and increase the air pressure, increase the air pressure in their labs, they're never going to get the same results in any of their genetic testing and anything that they do. That world is fundamentally, our world phases back and forth between ice ages, and the ice age period is a temperate period for most of the world. But the ice age period is low oxygen and it's low pressure. That's where we're in right now. We're in an ice age right now. The vapor canopy periods are high pressure, a marine atmosphere that filters out most of the solar light, allows ultraviolet light to come in, and a massive amount of air pressure. The people living when a vapor canopy appears aren't the ones that change. It's their children. It's the conception point. It's when the sperm fertilizes the egg. At the second of conception, there is a genetic transfer. That genetic code under a high pressure vapor canopy, ultraviolet, gamma radiation environment is fundamentally different. What's coming out of that egg isn't a chicken anymore. So we're going to get to that in a minute. Here's a blow up. I just blew up the Dark Ages period. It's not a coincidence that we have already shown in Archaics that that Nemesis and Phoenix being here, the only time in world history they were here in the same year, created a vapor canopy period. It's the reason why our historians have covered the whole period up and rewrote all those records and falsified all those historical documents from the period. It is the reason that is called the Dark Ages. It's like a euphemism. It's what they did. You can imagine the changes that happened to people, animals, and plant life during the gamma radiation saturation during 500 years of the Dark Ages. Whatever happened, it was so bad that history has left this period almost completely bereft of records. But archaeology tells a different story. Gigantic reptiles, huge amphibians, humans hunting and domesticating dinosaur-type creatures, as I've already shown you in the Icke stones, which are dated to this period. Do you see those red lines of gamma radiation on there? That's the dating for the Icke stones of Peru and many of the things I showed you in the slides earlier in this video for the pottery and for the early Christian churches that have all the dinosaurs and serpents and gargoyles and worms and giant mushrooms. That's the dating. So humans hunting and domesticating dinosaur-type creatures, people living, they left behind reliefs and pottery and totem poles, ceramic ware, jewelry, petroglyphs, often in 3 dimensions of perfect specimens of pterodactyls, plesiosaurs, or plesiosaurs, I still can't say it, stegosaurs, brontosaur, triceratops. We saw them all. We saw them all. But they weren't here 500 years before that. So something's going on because whole tracts of history don't have prehistoric creatures. But then all of a sudden, Dark Ages do. Something happened because ice started building up in Greenland and Antarctica. Reptiles, amphibians, avians, and dinosaurs began dying off, and humans began multiplying. I'm going to share my screen again. Volcanic activity can release ambient radiation, primarily due to the presence of naturally occurring radioactive materials in volcanic rocks and gases. I have already shown in one of my published books that 2 scientists grew 2 inches. You can look in the bibliography and see exactly where I got that data. But in 1902, the volcano Mount Pelée on Martinique, which killed 35,000 people, blew up. Scientists went and investigated the area, and while they were there for a few months, documenting the return of plants and insects and avian life to the volcano destroyed island, those 2 scientists grew 2 inches. One was 58 years old, and the other one I think was 61 or 62. Ambient volcanic radiation. They grew. So I'm just showing you that the research is out there. We're not going through all this, but the research is already out there about ambient radiation. Ambient radiation from volcanic activity can potentially lead to mutations in animals, though the extent and mechanism of this effect are still under investigation, which is euphemistic for we're just not going to tell you what we found. But also, I'm going to tell you too, there isn't much that modern science can find if they don't create laboratories of high pressure environments that are exposed to ultraviolet light. This is the vapor canopy atmosphere. Remember, you can't see the sun. When the vapor canopy is in full effect, the sun only shows as the sky whitening. Lightening. You're still, even the Native Americans remember the time of the dark purple light. In the daytime, you can see just fine, but there's no sun. The entire vapor canopy, which is higher than the cloud cover, the vapor canopy is in the mesosphere, suspended water droplets. They steam up when the sun passes over, and no one on the ground can see the sun. It's like the sky becomes like glass-like and opaque. When the sun passes, all the moisture cools. When it cools, the drops spread. The drops can, almost congeal in the mesosphere. What happens at nighttime? The mesosphere becomes a magnificent lens, like glass and crystal, that magnifies the moon's size, magnifies the stars and colors. The colors and the size of the stars. At nighttime, it's crystal clear. In the daytime, when the sun passes over, the heat clouds up the mesosphere. This is called Vapor Canopy. Jason of Archaix did not make this up. I have videos that show 4 scientific books that explain Vapor Canopy theory better than I ever could. So, we're not going to go into this. I'm just showing you it's all possible. Here's one volcano. Can you imagine what 200 volcanoes, with about 10 of them being submarine under the ocean? People automatically think that volcanoes are spitting nothing but a massive amount of volcanic ash and pumice, but that's not true. There's billions of tons of water in that right there, and it just steadily spews it. If 200 volcanoes all started erupting within a month's period of time, you would have a vapor canopy in weeks. It'd be very fast, especially if just a few of them were submarine volcanoes. Your vapor canopy would be fast, and your ice caps would be gone, because that moisture would go right back into the canopy, because the first thing it's going to create is a greenhouse effect. It's going to be almost like it's a perfect environment for reptiles, amphibians, avians, and insects. And then once the environment is perfectly created, the tertiary field, the Nemesis X field, affects the DNA not of pre-existing reptilian, amphibian, insect, and avian life forms, but these are all life forms that participate in parthenogenesis. They can lay eggs as male or females. They can switch their sexes. And when all these reptiles and amphibians and insects and avians get triggered because they're in a new field, a tertiary field environment, and now the environment is perfect for them, what do you think is going to happen? I'm about to show you what happens, but what do you think is going to happen when hundreds of millions of creatures begin laying eggs, and none of these eggs are going to hatch into forms that look like them, because they were born and conceived from eggs that hatched in a different field environment, in the terrasphere. But once Nemesis X field's here for 60 years, those eggs are going to be something else. And when they lay eggs, they're going to be something else entirely too. And it's going to be very fast. In a matter of months, the whole world is populated with forms that haven't been here in thousands of years. So let's move on to the next file. Oh, no, we got one little kind of bullshit thing to show you. It's not, I say bullshit, but you got to see it, because you have to understand, if something is true somewhere, it's going to be true somewhere else. So you're going to have to see this too. These are mutations in animals caused by gamma radiation. A lot of it from the Chernobyl incident, the nuclear reactor meltdown. You have to see. All right, so share my screen again. Oh, I got some amazing stuff. We still got some amazing stuff to go through, guys. All right, let's go with, I'm going to share this. Yeah, it's sad, but you got to see it. Don't cringe. Don't cringe. So that radiation that can cause mutations is already known. The problem is there's no Nemesis X tertiary field overlay at this point. So the mutations can't be guided. How are they guided? A tertiary field will activate latent recombinant DNA, whole entire DNA strands that have been proven to have structure, but they're called junk DNA because they're not activated. Even humans have these long palindromic sequences of junk DNA, but they will be activated in certain tertiary fields. Phoenix field is different than the Nemesis X field. So we don't quite know. We don't quite know how humans are going to be affected. We have some good ideas. So what's interesting to me about the two-headed aspect of the mutations is the fact that I didn't show any pictures, but I did in the past. We have a lot of medieval representations of hydras, also ancient Greek and Sparta hydras, as if they were real. In the artwork, you got You got bulls, wrestling bulls. You got wolves. You got the fox. You got owls, and then you got a hydra. You got a hydra like it's real, a 7-headed serpent, like it's something that's real. I mean, it's crazy. So the whole everything about chimeras, everything about like Cerberus, the three-headed demon dog that guards the port. Every bit of this could be factual history because we're dealing with interactive field dynamics now, and it's something science is entertaining, as I'm going to show you. But it's sad. Let's just go through these real quick. Two-headed snake, one mutation, many forms. You can look at the videos yourself. Now be careful. Some of the videos on YouTube are some bullshit. They're AI. Those mutations haven't occurred. Some real stupid shit. But this is real right here. This is from Ukraine. This is from the Chernobyl. Excuse me, the Chernobyl deal. Look at, I got different pictures of this. Look how that chicken's legs deformed almost like a crustacean. That's a chicken, guys. We're going to go back through that again. I took a few pictures of that. That's a chicken. This is Russia too. Look at this. That's a bird. That bird almost developed pterodactyl anatomy. Look at the bird. Look how it's using its wings as legs. Look how it's using its wings as legs. Almost looks like a gorilla. But that's how pterodactyls were. Their wings folded and they used them as legs. That's Chernobyl. That's not a creature. They said that's an algae or a mold or some shit like that. I don't know. It's not an animal. Fungus, something like that. So bizarre. These reptiles, they already have the genetic coding to be something else when there's a different field. All right, we just get through that. I just had to show you guys that to show this isn't something theoretical. Radiation does affect organisms at conception. All right, so we'll share my screen again. So in this book is the research of Alexander Del Mar from the year 1900. He reveals that the Roman Catholic Church created the Anno Domini calendar that the whole world uses today to specifically hide a 552-year period that they did not want the public to know about. I've got a video about this where one of my moderators put the link in there to I've got it right here. Never mind. I got it right here. Harrowing truth of the Anno Domini calendar. I'll show it in a minute. I'll show it on the screen. So the AD system, Anno Domini, your calendar today, was created and backdated 526 years to when the church believed Jesus was born, calling it Anno Domini 1 Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. So the AD calendar was actually invented after the year 900, sometime, and backdated to 526 AD. This is why the world lost the knowledge of the 552-year cycle. But at one time, as my Archaix veteran does know, who's gone through all my Phoenix presentations, you already know that the ancient world knew about the Phoenix. They knew about the 552 year. They knew what it was all about. They knew the Great Pyramid and Enoch. the Sphinx. They knew all this was connected to it. So the church removed that cycle in creating the Anno Domini calendar, and they did this at the very start. Well, they did this in retrospect, but they backdated it to when they thought the Dark Ages began. It began in 522 with Phoenix and Nemesis X. They backdated it to 526 AD. So this is Alexander. This is Alexander Del Mar's research, and the actual video where I talk about this is right here. I have this video on YouTube, The Harrowing Truth of the Anno Domini Calendar, How the Papacy Hid the Phoenix. I think one of my moderators already posted the link to it. I'm not sure. Not sure. So we're going to now look at phantom time hypothesis. How many of you heard of phantom time hypothesis? Heribert Illig of Bavaria in 1991 wrote that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III and Pope Sylvester II fabricated the Anno Domini dating system retroactively in order to place their own reign. They wanted to place their own reign in the special year of AD 1000. So Illig believed that this was achieved through the alteration, misrepresentation, and forgery of documentary and physical evidence that rewrote or invented a 297-year period from 614 to 911 AD, the Dark Ages. That they made up events to empower the Holy Roman Empire, claiming they transpired from 614 to 911 AD, but in truth, there is no history for this period. It's the Dark Ages. Here's something from our Archaix veterans. 297-year invented period of the Dark Ages, but the Dark Ages was caused by the appearance of Nemesis X. Nemesis X periodicity is 792 years, which is a holographic reflection. It's a holographic reflection of the number 297, 792. Very, very intriguing. Just a coincidence, though. It's not evidence of anything. So here's a guy basically saying the same thing Alexander Del Mar is, but he has more details. Alexander Del Mar said they were trying to hide a 552-year cycle. This guy here saying they just wanted their reign to be in the year 1000 to be more prestigious and like vainglory, and had to invent a 297-year period that did not exist. What I see out of all this is that they just wrote in Charlemagne and many other things that never really truly existed, and wrote all these back histories to fill a Dark Age period for which they had no records at all. So Heribert was a colleague and fellow researcher with Emanuel Velikovsky and editor of the journal Prehistory Proto-History Present in Bavarian. His theory is titled Phantom Time Hypothesis, and his research verifies Alexander Del Mar's research on the invention of the AD calendar. And in fact, there seems to be no history for the Dark Age period. So we get to a real giant. This guy here's awesome, but we cannot ignore Fomenko any longer. Let me find Fomenko. That's Phantom Time Hypothesis by Abraham Lloyd, if you're interested. Uh-oh, how'd that get in there? Oh, it's because I have a whole separate file on Fomenko. Hold on. Share my screen again. This guy here. Let me tell you about this guy here. Is it Anatoly Fomenko? It's not Anatoly, I don't think. Anyway, I'm just going to call him Fomenko. This guy's a Russian mathematician and author. He is a member of the Russian Academy of Sciences and a professor at Moscow State University. He has authored over 250 250 scientific publications, including books on mathematics and history. So Fomenko analyzes text and astronomy, architecture, and tradition, and he's concluded that the Dark Ages is a true blank. That verifiable written records commenced about 800 AD. What? Didn't we show that the ice, that we go back to the 796? Didn't we just show that if you do the calculations for the ice based off the World War II plains being 260 feet deep, that means going back to 796, there's no ice in the Dark Ages. So he says that the histories of the Dark Ages and Middle Ages were actually written around 1200 to 1600 AD. I would have to agree based off everything we found out about, Viking history not being accurate. The early churches were actually like, I don't know, man, Jesus, Lord of the Mushroom, and saints with superpowers. It's crazy. So he also shows there is a dearth of European artifacts until about 1000 AD. What? We're going to have to look at a chart to understand everything that we're seeing here has to be summed up in a chart, right? So we're going to look at a chart real quick. So critics claim that he selectively uses data to fit his theories while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. But this is exactly what the establishment, historians, and scientists do, ignoring all anomalies that do not fit their model. This is why no establishment sources will ever pick up Jason of Archaics research. They can't. They can't. This is why this is going to be ignored by mainstream. They just want it to go away. But you're being given the truth and the true history of our world. But this isn't what they so when you get a mind like Fomenko, who actually knows his material, knows how to research, has access to all the data, and he concludes we don't have anything for the Dark Ages, and all those texts written before that were all actually written in 1200s to 1600s. Then you got to listen to that. You got to pay attention to that. So in short, Fomenko may not be correct about everything, but he has certainly made his case that history has been tampered with and that Europe did not seem to wake up until about 800 AD and didn't even have very many writings at all until 1000 AD, and they were very scant. So that Fomenko is amazing. We're not talking about theory. This man wrote 250 scientific articles, but he also wrote a history of the world. Here it is right here. Yeah. Do you see this? History, fiction, or science. The man isn't making idle claims. He has a massive amount of data to support his research. I have 2 Fomenko books here. I don't have this though. But it's massive. It's massive. You can't just ignore Alexander Del Mar. You can't ignore Illig. You can't ignore Fomenko. They're all saying the same thing. And yet the establishment is trying to gaslight you and say, man, these dudes don't know what they're talking about. Well, let me tell you about 3 books that the establishment is going to tell you, oh, those are just forgeries. They're not verifiable. Now, you do better not to read them. Let me tell you about 3 books. So let's get out of here. Move out of here. We are going to look at this amazing chart. Some of you have seen it before. Takes on new meanings now with the gamma radiation stuff and all that, man. It's incredible. It is incredible what we're finding, guys. We don't have to make anything up. All the information is accessible to us now. We don't have to make anything up. So, sole surviving text that mainstream is going to tell you there's nothing to see here. One is the Colburn Bible. And as I showed recently in one of my presentations, the Phoenix phenomenon of Nemesis X is in there perfectly. It's in the Colburn Bible version. It's awesome. The Colburn Bible is the literal story of the Old Testament Exodus out of Egypt and all that, without all the Jewish forgeries, without all the Jewish interpolations. It's just the story. Doesn't have any of that, all that Old Testament mumbo jumbo in there. It's just the story of the Exodus and the cataclysm that afflicted Egypt. It's the exact same story as in the Exodus in the Bible, minus the Judeo-Christian overtones. So the Kolbrin Bible is ignored by the establishment today, but in it we find the doom shape. And when the doom shape appears in the sky, the Kolbrin Bible literally tells us that reptiles are everywhere. What in the hell did it mean? Why does this book, the establishment, say is unimportant and they won't draw any attention to it, literally give us a history of the world that's huge? It's 685 pages. It's huge. And yet it says when the doom shape appears in the sky, reptiles are everywhere. Nothing to see here. The church destroyed thousands of manuscripts and books, and only one copy of the Anglo-Saxon text of Beowulf survived. In it, we find that the early Vikings were battling reptilian monsters in fens, bogs, and swamps. They even designed their dragon ships to look like creatures, to keep other creatures at bay. Put big eyes on them and on everything, big old mouths and teeth. So the Beowulf is, it shows us a whole new idea. The Vikings in this cycle are the mariners that basically came out of a dark age Vapor Canopy as mariners living on their ships and boats with their families, and they showed up in a post Vapor Canopy, post collapse world of primitivism all throughout Europe, Mediterranean, all these places, and they literally helped rebuild society, and we've been on an upward trajectory ever since. But the Vikings as mariners fulfill the role in this cycle of what the Anuna, Oannes, Enki, Etana, Vulcan did when they landed with their ships. After the Ubaid period, after 3439 BC, which started a 1200-year countdown, the famous 432,000 shars turning as of the stars to the Great Flood. Every bit of it is answerable in world chronology. It fits perfect. So a third manuscript that we need to entertain is the Voynich manuscript. I have three amazing books. I'm going to do a video on it, but I have three amazing books in my possession on the Voynich manuscript. It is incredible what is in this book. The things that are in this book will blow your mind. But a single copy of the amazing Voynich manuscript survived. It is penned in an unknown script. It depicts unknown creatures, dragons, but humans are doing normal activities. And the book is packed with botanical illustrations of plants we're not familiar with. So specialists date it to the early 1400s. This is exactly what you'd expect to find from a book originally composed during a tertiary field period when the world was completely different than it was now. I'm telling you that this book can't exist, what's in this book, unless the writer or it was copied from an older book that was written during a tertiary field event when flora and fauna were affected by the tertiary field little triggers and grew in ways that we don't experience today because the field's not here. The Nemesis X field nor the Phoenix field is here right now, but that's where we're heading very close. We're very close to it in the near future, as my Archaix veterans know. You guys are got your chronological facts down just as good as I do. But the Voynich manuscript is a book that was written during a tertiary field event. We'll do a video in the future about it. There are scenes of people coming up from the underground in the Voynich manuscript. Women are bathing, they're nude, there's strange plants. There's even a fear conveyed in the book of some plants acting like violent animals, carnivorous plants. Can you imagine a Vapor Canopy environment where you got to watch out because the plants are trying to eat you too? No wonder everybody lived on ships. We talked about that in the past. During vapor canopies, people live on ships. This is the origin of maritime law. This is why all of our legal parlance, all our scientific and legal parlance today it's basically steeped in mariner terms. It's because you don't live on land during vapor canopies unless you live high up in the mountains. That's where you live. You live high up in mountains in fortresses with gigantic megalithic walls to protect you, or you live in fleets. Your whole family, your whole community lives in fleets. And where do you go? You go to Antarctica. That's where you go. That's the go-to place during a cataclysm. Start connecting the dots. Let's see. So in the Dark Ages, there were no urban centers built. The cities were abandoned because the survivors of the cataclysm, they all lived in ships. The fleets were safe from the crazy things that were growing on land. That humans lived on ships, I mean, it explains so much about how, although a culture can be primitive and not even know how to build buildings, they are experts at building the keel, the most difficult part of the ship, and attaching to the keel everything else. Their whole lives and livelihoods depended upon them being able to float. Ships are buildings designed to float. It's far more complicated than building buildings on land. So after the vapor canopy is gone, the first appearance of fleets, like I said, they're the Vikings. And history tells us that the Vikings were destroyers, but that's all bullshit. Yeah, they invaded some places, and yeah, people were butthurt about it later. But then they start building churches, castles, towers, universities, cities, bulwarks, bastions. They came in and they introduced infrastructure. It's the story of Enki and the Anuna all over again. The Vikings, the Normans, they built these castles, bridges, canal works, everything, master Wainwrights. And we get gaslit by our own historians. Let me show you. Yeah, we get gaslit by our own historians. This BS. You're told this is Jesus. The Turin Shroud to promote Christianity. You're told this is Jesus. But the Vatican's not going to lie to you, because no pope has ever officially declared that the Turin Shroud is Jesus. All they do is say that it's a holy relic of the church. That's all they say. They will not come out publicly and say it is Jesus. Why? Because it's not. It's a Norman knight. This is a Norman burial shroud. Looks just like the Normans look like, and it's dated scientifically to the Crusader period when the Normans were dying on Muslim battlefields. So, yeah, that's another psyop. Remember, it's all theater. It's all theater, guys. So back to this. You can see very clearly here. Here's the Dark Ages period. Can't make this stuff up. Here's when Nemesis X and Phoenix appeared in 522 together. This is the Dark Ages period. This is when there was no ice in Antarctica and Greenland. This is when the Vikings began making their excursions. They're coming in. This 900s and 1000. This is a 200-year period where humans are slowly multiplying, but they're still up against the vapor canopy creatures that were left behind. Yeah, they don't just disappear just because the field is gone. So this is the period churches are being built. Here's the actual historical record. None of this is falsified. Here it is. All of a sudden, Europe just exploded. No, there's no historical reason for the Dark Ages for a period that long where we couldn't recover. So the whole world must have been fundamentally different, because we already knew how to build cities. Look at the ancient cities of Rome and Egypt, Rome and Egypt and Syria, Babylon. We knew how to build cities, man. We knew how to build huge infrastructures, but we didn't have any during the Dark Ages. Why? Then all of a sudden, as soon as the Vikings appear, real fast, look at the recovery. Now we're building universities. 1167, Oxford University, Paris University, St. Denis Cathedral, Durham Castle, Speyer Cathedral, Pisa Cathedral, University of Bologna, all built relatively at the exact same time. And when I say exact same time, I mean that because they all took a long time to build. So there was huge, these construction projects were all going on almost at the same time. From 980 to 1350, Stone Castle building period is the Stone Castle building period. From 1099 to 1254 is the Crusader Wars. Why? Because now, after the Dark Ages, there's all kinds of reasons for trade wars with the Middle East. Because even the Middle East during the Dark Ages, radio silence, just a bunch of Bedouin Arabs out there with their camels and their sheep. Now, all that's gone, and the world's waking up, and people are vying for position. Shortly after all the cathedrals, major churches and castles are built, and the Crusades are fought, here we have Cambridge University, University of Salamanca, Chartres Cathedral, then Notre Dame, 1345. Yeah, this is the historical record right here. It all makes sense. This is why Fomenko, this is why Illig, this is why Alexander Del Mar have new chronology. They all three tried to build new chronologies because they had to make sense of a dearth of historical information that did not make sense. And yet artifacts and relics that tell a totally different story from the historical record that we've been given today. What story do they tell? Ubaid had reptilian humanoids. Acambaro artifacts has reptilian humanoids. Do you follow me? There's a whole massive period of history called the Dark Ages that's called dark because the establishment doesn't want you to know and put the pieces together what really happened and what was really going on. So let's move on to the next file. File number 8. All right. Moving right along. So we're going to share my screen again. This weirdo. Yeah, he's a weirdo. All right. This is just a TED Talk, a picture of a TED Talk, but this is Jack Horner. In 2003, paleontologist Jack Horner, he discovered a fossilized tyrannosaur leg bone. In 2005, Mary Schweitzer actually discovered flexible blood vessels and cells in the same Tyrannosaurus femur that this guy found. This guy's really interesting. Now, she was able to retrieve undamaged proteins from the specimen. So there is no way that Tyrannosaurus rex femur was 68 million years old if she found flexible blood vessels in the bone. She was able to extract undamaged proteins. It's not 68 million years old. So this same guy, Jack Horner, he wrote a book in 2009, How to Build a Dinosaur. Extinction doesn't have to be forever. That's the name of the book. He describes his plan to recreate a dinosaur by genetically nudging the DNA of a chicken. In 2011, Horner pursued the project to develop the animal, which he described as a chickenosaurus. Man, and they did it. Let me show you. This is a chickenosaurus. So he's got a whole team of geneticists, and they're going to turn this chicken into a chickenosaurus. So Horner expected to have a living dinosaur within 10 years. They did a bunch of experimentation and they would be born dead or they would be born. And the problem is you're not replicating vapor canopy conditions. The latent DNA sequences, I'm not a geneticist, so I'm only speaking as best I can. But the latent DNA, the dormant DNA, the junk DNA in avians and reptiles, it's going to stay that way until the necessary tertiary field interaction, which activates those genes. So all this testing they're doing is producing dead results. Now, here's a here's where the story gets really weird. Lacking the funding to continue making a modern dinosaur, Jack Horner is put into contact with Jeffrey Epstein in 2012, who wants to fund the dinosaur project. Jeffrey Epstein was already convicted in 2008 of sex crimes. Why would a Jewish blackmailer and human trafficker want Jack Horner to advance his research to turning chicken eggs into velociraptors? What's the connection? Why would Epstein even want to get involved? Process that for a minute. Oh, I love coffee. In 2015, an independent group of scientists reported that they had found a way to turn the beaks of chicken embryos back into dinosaur-like snouts by reverse genetic engineering. And the University of Chile geneticists have produced embryos with dinosaur-like leg and foot anatomy, including the fibula, full length and reaching the ankle. They're already making dinosaurs with chicken eggs. So you remember seeing the duck-billed dinosaurs that look really ridiculous? Yeah, that's your chicken. Or that's your ducks. That's your mallards. Yeah, during a tertiary field event, I guarantee you're going to see them again. So kind of the whole tertiary field phenomenon actually, it makes sense of the duck-bill platypus as well. Roast duck. Nah, something else. So in modern labs, scientists have tweaked chicken DNA and experiments have produced the activation of reptilian traits in the bird's offspring, like tails and teeth. Jack Horner and his teams have already produced a chickenosaurus by manipulating chicken embryos to sprout dinosaur-like snouts and claws, as if unlocking dormant sequences already coded in the chicken DNA. So none of this is theoretical. Modern avians, reptiles, and amphibians alive and well today actually have the DNA coding that it's latent in their makeup for these animals to hatch other animals far different and larger than current types. Reptilian DNA structures in avians means with the right conditions, a trigger can result in chickens laying eggs that hatch into velociraptors. The velociraptors will lay eggs shortly after that will come out as totally different dinosaur-like creatures. Those creatures will lay eggs and they will come out as even more different the longer that the tertiary field is intact. Taking this hidden reptilian programming further, if a worldwide trigger activating dormant DNA to awaken in avians, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and insects familiar us to today was actually executed, what can we expect? If the necessary field was artificially created, or if the necessary field was naturally created when the Nemesis X returns, what can we expect based off what we have found in the archaeological and historical record? Show you some other stuff real quick. Jeffrey Epstein's links to scientists are even more extensive than we thought. There's a lot of them, man. And remember, Jack Horner he was in contact with Epstein after Epstein was convicted. Remember, everything is theater. Everything is theater. Epstein funded all these scientists. Yeah, man. It's amazing what's going on. Jason, where are you going with this presentation? Yeah, it's going to get good. So, yeah, this is just articles about Epstein funding the dinosaur chicken. Talking to Jack Horner. So crazy. Just so crazy. So this is our TED Talk guy. Just goes to show you who gets invited on TED Talks. So it's bizarre. All right. So add to this Harvard University's ancient DNA facility that found DNA sequences that are too perfect for deep time. Deep time refers to millions of years, meaning Harvard University is not telling the public, but they have published privately that they're finding too perfect DNA sequences in dinosaur artifacts and bones. It doesn't make sense. There's no way these things can be millions and millions of years. But these are dismissed as contamination. But this is an admission that contaminated DNA sequences are more complex and ordered than the originals. Totally defies uniformitarianism. It totally defies natural selection to even admit such a thing. They're hypocrites. It's all theater. It's all theater. Your contaminated specimens are more complex and organized than the original chickens, than the original Tyrannosaurus. Doesn't make sense. They'll say whatever they got to say to stick to their uniformitarian theater. The issue is the fact that ancient dinosaur DNA matching modern reptiles and avians is an anomaly because they are supposed to be separated by millions of years. Harvard University has found that modern reptiles, that damn lizard on your back fence, has the same DNA as 65 million year old dinosaurs. Do you understand the implications? If the DNA sequences are the exact same, then that lizard on your fence is only a lizard on your fence because we're in an ice age cycle. It is a temperate atmosphere of low pressure with almost no ultraviolet light. But when the vapor canopy returns and everything is saturated with ultraviolet light through a magnifying effect of the vapor canopy itself, the mesosphere, which with that much moisture way high creates atmospheric pressure. Much more atmospheric pressure. And then plants explode, animals explode, and then all this nitrogen, oxygen, this exchange increases the atmospheric pressure. And now, instead of little 8% oxygen that you inhale, you're inhaling 90% oxygen. Do you know what a human can do when it oxygenates its body? When you have so much oxygen in you, do you have any idea how long you can run or how long you can stay underwater without breathing? It's a long time. So there are reports of soft tissues found in dinosaur bones yielding DNA fragments with non-terrestrial sequences. What in the hell does that mean? Dinosaur bones have additional DNA that's not recognizable to anything on Earth. Well, there's no mystery here. If the common lizard on your fence in your backyard has the same DNA of 65 million year old reptilian dinosaurs, then the dinosaurs that have the extra DNA codes that are said to be off-world is the DNA that is activated during a tertiary field. How do we know? Because they're dinosaurs, not lizards on your back fence. So in laboratories, these mutations have increased the size of eggs and temperature. This is what the scientists are reporting. Temperature determines the sex of the hatchling. This is where some of you ladies are going to get kind of turned off. I know you like your high heels. I know you like looking good. I like that you like looking good. Love the makeup. You know what? Even the mini skirts. But in the world I'm about to describe, that's not probably going to be possible unless you're in an underground facility or a high mountain facility. But a chicken typically lays 250 to 300 eggs a year. One chicken, anybody can Google this, one chicken lays 250 to 300 eggs a year. 50,000 chickens, which is nothing, but 50,000 chickens can lay at a minimum 12.5 million eggs in a year. So imagine for a moment sparrows, crows, ducks, hawks, condors, turkeys, vultures, ostriches, eagles, sparrow hawks. Man, there's so many different kinds. Crows. Imagine all the different avians. Even some that are kind of dinosaur now, ostriches and, just weird creatures, emus. So imagine all of them all over the world laying these eggs. Imagine reptiles like snakes, lizards, turtles, alligators, crocodiles, all laying eggs all over the world. But the creatures hatched are larger and more ferocious than what we're used to. All the birds, their eggs the creatures are far more reptilian than the avians themselves. Imagine amphibians like frogs, toads, salamanders that hatch eggs of beasts far larger and dangerous than any of the versions we are used to today. Imagine insects and worms growing to enormous sizes like bees, wasps, mantis, ants. Oh man, termites, grub worms, roly-polies. Roly-polies look like dinosaurs. Dragonflies, centipedes, walking sticks, moths. Imagine the size these insects will be in this tertiary field vapor canopy environment. Imagine fish and squid and octopus and eels growing enormously. Now, we don't want to imagine that. A tertiary field overlay would affect all living organisms to the genetic level. In this case, triggering parthenogenetic responses in avians and reptiles and amphibians, fish and insects. There would be an explosion of egg laying, and within months, the world will be filled with newer variations of the egg layers. And these new variations will lay their own eggs to create even newer variations as the tertiary field environment continues. And the vapor canopy increases in pressure and ambient radiation, gamma radiation, and ultraviolet light. So we're talking about a new world that appears in months. We're talking about major cities turning into really weird, abandoned jungle type environments in just 1 or 2 years. Let's go to the next file. Told you I got some stuff to show. Next file. So we'll just start in reverse. All right. So unique to the Archaics research, for those of you who don't know, is that years before 2012, I was already doing research, and I even had a book published before 2012 that explained that the Mayan long count does not end in 2012. The arithmetic is wrong. Uniformitarian assumptions. They didn't understand how the Maya factored time. And I corrected the mistake and showed as far as 20 years ago, I was showing that the Mayan long count ends in 2046. It does not end in 2012. Nobody read my book, but it doesn't matter. It's still out there for people to read now. My Archaics veterans have read it, Anunnaki Homeworld. But here is the Mayan long count ending in 2046 right here. Here's how the Bactans work. But we're not going to dwell on this. This is a part. I've got many episodes, many videos show all this, even books. I'm just showing you that we've already determined 2046 is the return of the Nemesis X object. So we go to the next. We're going to go through this pretty fast. Again, here's the 792-year periodicity of Nemesis X. Again, so you'll see 2046 begins the next 60-year convergence field. Here it is. This is a tertiary field beginning in 2046. We have documented every one of these in Archaics going all the way back. This is not something new. It's something that many people in the comments section already know the research to. So, whether you believe you're on a flat Earth or if you believe in the heliocentric model, which I believe neither one, I am a simulationist, we still have this model to explain exactly what's happening. When the Nemesis X object, which has its own field, overlays our field, that's when all the magic happens. That's when all the changes. So this chart here is just to show that the Great Pyramid was built when Earth traveled on the Nemesis plane, because the Great Pyramid is Nemesis technology, and it's why it's not understood. In the Terra sphere, which is our world right now, we cannot fully process exactly what the function of the Great Pyramid is, which it has an engineering function, but we can't process it because we're not living in that world. We're not in a high pressure environment under a vapor canopy. So what we see at Giza doesn't make sense to us right now. So, but we'll get there in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. This is the intersection of two planes. In the Archaics world chronology, here's 2046. 2040 is the return of Phoenix. 2046 is the Nemesis X tertiary field right here. That's what this is. This is both the Mayan long count and Nemesis X both end in 2046. Two completely independent data sets having all their own proofs and evidence to support them. Have nothing to do with each other, but both of them end in 2046. Here's 2046. There's a bunch of chronological data. There's 2046 right here on this last days chart. Let's move on. Here's where they were showing us. This is Sigma Draconis system in the Star Trek episode. It's all theater, guys. They're literally giving us the truth. It looks very close to what I drew in about 20 years ago. This is a chart that I drew about 20 years ago to describe the 138-year visitations of Phoenix and the 552 years? 552-year Phoenix cycles, which explain the history of the ancient world. So David Davidson's research in 1924, he studied the Great Pyramid and figured out that there was an astronomical timeline embedded within the rectilinear dimensions of the Great Pyramid's base diagonals between the four cornerstones. And whatever his reasoning is, it doesn't matter. The man was an engineer in 1924 who believed that the Great Pyramid was a timeline and that the final year of that timeline before a new world began was 2045. 2045 AD was the final year of the Great Pyramid timeline that describes a totally different type of sky. This is what David Davidson said, a totally different type of sky appearing. Why he knew all this, he didn't know anything about the Phoenix, Nemesis X. He didn't know about any. He just studied the Great Pyramid. Here is 2046 as a prophetic foreshadowing, because we have 2046 right here where evil is eradicated in the year 2046 of the old world. Evil is punished. It has been going on for centuries. And it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And in the 2046th year of the old world's calendar, Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboam, Harappan civilization, several Sumerian cities where evil was concentrated were wiped off the map. This is the story. It's also in the Bible. It's about Sodom and Gomorrah. It's also in the book of Jasher and the book of Jubilees and the Jewish Hadaroth. It goes into some detail about how evil these people had become. And in their 2046th year, they're all destroyed. But the rest of the world continues just fine. This is 2046 AD is when this prophetic foreshadowing ends. It's totally independent of Nemesis X. It's totally independent of engineer David Davidson's research. It's totally independent of the Mayan long count itself. Just like Douglas Vogt of the Diehold Foundation, his date for the next pole shift is 2046. His data and his reasoning is totally independent of anything you see in Archaics. It's 2046. So I do need to go see something real quick. Just a second. Now, now I know a lot of new people here don't know. Archaics veterans already know. The Great Pyramid is a three-dimensional holographic display of the world's timekeeping systems. Most people just can't process that. Excuse me, and I don't even care. I'm at the point I don't care what you can comprehend or not. I'm tired of saying the same things over and over and over. But I will show them. But over and over and over in my presentations, I have shown the precise scientific measurements of the Great Pyramid show us actual calendars of the ancient world that lead up to certain dates. In 2046 is shown in the Great Pyramid multiple times over and over and over, and I've got whole videos about it. But what I'm going to show you right here is that also in the Great Pyramid was shown 522 AD. And it was shown in the architecture where two different planes connected. Just like the terrasphere plane that we're on, and Nemesis X plane creates a tertiary field when the two planes intersect. It's shown perfectly in the Great Pyramid. It's right here. There it is. You can't make this shit up. These the measurements I have for the Great Pyramid are by Sir Flinders Petrie. They're accepted by Egyptologists, and they perfectly match the historical record. Absolutely perfect. And all these historical events show a timeline that descends all the way here when the timeline ends on another plane. Even the architecture shows the story. This timeline ends on a totally different plane. And right where that arrow is called the axis conjunct between the descending passage and the ascending passage, and it is the year 522 AD perfectly, which is 1,518 years to the return of Phoenix in 2040, and this is scientifically measured at exactly 1,518 inches to the perimeter. You can't make this shit up. I have the measurements in the Great Pyramid are self-referencing. And I'm always being critical of people who have pyramid theories if they do not include the 138 sequencing that's found all throughout the pyramid. So I'm being real critical with people about that. I'm going to continue to be, because it is an enigma that has only been addressed in Archaics. And if you have a theory about the Great Pyramid, but you ignore the fact that so many of these measurements are all divisible by 138, sometimes in other dimensions of arithmetic like pi and phi, and your theory doesn't account for how all these rectilinear measurements are perfect periods of human history that are very well documented, then your theory sucks. It's really simple. You can't ignore this in the application of your own theory. This is the prime message of the Great Pyramid as far as a concept. Now, when it comes to engineering, I'm all ears, because it does have an engineering function as well. As I've shown in Archaics research, it was necessary to build an engineering function into it in order to fool an overseer program, so that overseer program would not see what was actually being codified into the measurements. But that's a whole nother story. It's something totally different. I just wanted to show that Great Pyramid does show Absolutely 522 AD, just like it does 2046 over and over and over. Now, where am I at? Where am I at? Okay, we finished with the, well, I can go ahead and show it real quick. So the two planes, this is kind of what you saw in the Great Pyramid. And remember, we're always trying to explain things from the inside of an experience. So you have to remember that a man who views the world from inside a bubble thinks his vision is clear, but it's not, it's distorted. You're looking through the lens of the bubble. So when you see illustrations like this and you're not a heliocentric model type person, you can't get triggered because this is merely an illustration showing how two planes intersect. Whether you think we live on planets or planes, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. But this is very similar to what you saw with the Great Pyramid, two different planes. And they intersected in 522. They ended in one of them ended in 522. Well, I had a bunch of stuff on my top shelf just fall. Oh, I got a sword up there that came off the wall. Knocked a lamp down. No big deal. I think my wall just got zapped. All right, so this is, let me turn that lamp off while it's on the floor. Turn this off. I don't quite know what it's going to do. All right. So I was thinking that Nemesis X field convergence brought, pay attention, especially if you're my Archaix veterans and you watch my last presentations on this matter. I was thinking that the Nemesis X field convergence brought reptiles. It brought the amphibians and insects into our world. And then the Vapor Canopy conditions had them multiplying and growing to enormous sizes. But that's not true. The tertiary field does not need to bring anything. It's just a field. It's just a field. Doesn't need to bring anything. It causes genetic triggering of dormant DNA sequences in reptiles, amphibians, insects, and in people who are already here, who have biological or introduced reptilian DNA, those infected and those naturally born. Pay attention. Egg-laying avians, reptiles, amphibians, and fish will not be physically affected in the convergence field. But when they ovulate and at conception, the eggs inside them will be different. The eggs will hatch into reptilian creatures, and these in turn will lay eggs that will be even more reptilian and large. This means those humans infected with reptilian DNA through shots or medicines will be altered in their behavior. Those biologically possessing reptilian DNA will be genetically prevented from being anything other than what they are. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm going to repeat that. Those who are biologically possessing reptilian DNA naturally in our world right now, they will be genetically prevented from being anything other than what they are, which means they will be unable to shape change into human appearances while affected by the tertiary field environment. Their identity in the population will become impossible to conceal. When the Nemesis X field is here, just like the Colburn Bible says, reptiles are everywhere, just like the archaeological record is shown, just like I showed you in this video, when this occurs, those with natural reptilian DNA, not those infected will behave differently, but those natural reptoids in the field that are already here, reptilian DNA is activated and becomes ascendant. Once it's ascended, it can't be suppressed to shape change into something human. They're not going to be able to hide. This is the point I'm trying to make. So, what do humans do when confronted with what they perceive to be demons? What do humans do? It's in all the movies, it's in all the television shows, it's in all the fiction books, it's in all the comic books. What do humans do when they're suddenly confronted with what they perceive to be demons? Do you think they make friends with them? What the elite are preparing for is this event when suddenly they can't hide. When a hidden type of Homosaurus race lives among the massive population of Homo sapiens, their agenda would be to get the different cultures and races of the human family to interbreed and adopt interracial societies, open all their borders, and to eliminate all forms of prejudice and racism from the population, to groom the human family into accepting everybody, every sexuality, every single weird nuance out there, because when everything is accepted, so can they be accepted. This is what is going on in the field right now. They know very soon their presence is going to be unmasked. So what else can we expect this trigger event to do? If the Nemesis X tertiary field activates reptilian DNA to be ascendant during the tertiary field overlay, then we can expect two very harrowing events to occur in 2046 and beyond. One, humans that have been infected with reptilian DNA venom introduced into their bodies will assume reptilian behavioral traits and probably be under the direct control of human reptile biology or biological entities that are already here that are pure blood. So human reptile biology, though, is not incompatible for some diseases. You need to see this. Yeah, I quit talking about it. Let me show you. This right here seals the deal. We may be human, which is mammals. They may be reptilian, reptiles, but don't think we're not compatible biologically. I'm going to show you that we are. Told you we're going to get into some weird shit in this video. And we're not done. We are not done. I got to find it somewhere. Oh, I found it. Hold on. That's the wrong one. There it is. Look, you can do the research yourself. You don't need me to do it. But it's a simple Google search. You don't need me to do it. It's right here. There's all kinds of studies out there that show that there are diseases that humans get from reptiles. If there's just one disease that a human can get from reptile, there's 6 right here listed. But if there's even one, that shows there is compatibility biologically. So I just told you one. This is one of the things we can expect in 2046 is that those who have been injected with anything reptilian, if it's still in them, then yeah, they're going to adopt reptilian. They're not going to turn into one. They're going to adopt reptilian behaviors. They also might be mentally under the control of pure-blood reptilians. That's I don't know. I'm not really sure. It's just theoretical. But 2, the race of reptilians among the human population, when their DNA coding is triggered by the Nemesis X tertiary field, they will no longer be able to shape change, to conceal their identities. They will be exposed and clearly seen by all. It's a 60-year period. Remember Archaics veterans in my other presentations where I showed you that in the past, the gods always visited Earth in 60-year periods, and that the original Sumerian, Chinese, and Egyptian calendars were all based off 60-year intervals. Do you remember those videos? Starting to make sense now, isn't it? Starting to make sense. So where is this other? I'm going to share this too. So if you're new to the channel and you just don't know, we've talked about tertiary fields, convergence fields, also talked about what's the membrane? I forgot something membrane theory. Oh, dimensional membrane theory. Listen, there's already constructs in the scientific thought today that already talk about all these things. Here's collapse harmonic theory. It's another theory. It's very similar, and this is the coherence reorganization aspect of this theory is basically what we're talking about happening to the reptilians. They have all this DNA programming, and it allows them in a weakened field to be able to basically shape change into whatever they can mentally imagine. So they shape change into people. And because whatever, they get an emotional trigger, they get mad about something in their field, they suspect somebody's staring at them, their field shimmers, whatever. But when the Nemesis X tertiary field what creates a tertiary field, it's an overlay. When this convergence happens, here's a 60-year period, they cannot disguise themselves as humans. They can't. Reptilian DNA is at the ascendant. It's heavy. Vapor Canopy field is heavy. Air pressure is heavy. The air is full of moisture. It's heavy. The sky has got the mesosphere is heavy. Everything is very different in this type of world. And here's an interesting deal too. You remember from a recent video, I was explaining the Sumerian king list. The book of Revelation says that in the future apocalyptic period, after the destruction of the world, one third of the human race is destroyed in the second trumpet. It's during the trumpet judgments, which I've showed in previous presentations, is just Jewish mumbo jumbo. They took the Sibylline oracles and the old Greek prophecies and they added all this stuff to them, but really the entire book of Revelation is describing two back-to-back cataclysms, just like Mother Shipton's prophecy, back-to-back sky dragons, just like Nostradamus's centuries, back-to-back. He even dates them 2040 and 2046, as I've shown using the Mario Reading Date Index. So everything fits perfectly. And the book of Revelation says that in the last days, there will be 7 kings. When you research the 7 kings and the 8th king, Apollyon, the destroyer, you find out that these are prophetic references to a past event. That past event was the Akamaro period. We've already seen the Akamaro period. What was it? Humans and dinosaurs. Hunting, doing surgeries, domesticating dinosaurs. Akamaro period is smack dab in the middle of the reign of the 7 kings. When was the reign of the 7 kings? Every chronologist worth his metal will know. Half of my comment section is full of veterans. They know. The 241,200 shars of the Sumerian king list is 670 years that 7 kings ruled. And as soon as the 8th took the throne, the flood wiped the earth out, wiped out that whole area, that whole Akamaro area, region of time. Done. The reason I'm mentioning it now is because our prophetic material says that in the future, it's going to be a return to the times of like the 7 kings. But if we go through the Sumerian and you research the 7 kings, the very first king was Alulim, and Alulim comes from a Sumerian root word of Allah. And Allah in Sumerian is a shape-changing demon. You can't make this shit up. Every bit of it is in historical record and easy to verify. Can't make this shit up. Did I share that with you guys? I didn't even share it with you guys, did I? Holy shit. You guys didn't even see that on the screen, did you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I meant to show that on the screen, but it was on my side screen. Here's the actual text. Yeah. The very first of the 7 kings who were said to come back in the future during the 60-year convergence field. The very first of the 7 kings is Alulim. Yeah, Lim is king or kingship. Alu is based off the Sumerian root word Allah, and Allah in Sumerian is a shape-changing demon. You can't, like I said, you just can't make this shit up. Oh, I know I'm going to get some hate mail for that one. All I'm doing is stating the facts, ma'am. I'm just stating the facts. So, we're not done at all. We're not done. So, speaking of the apocalypse, we have the first seal. What do we find out in the first seal? They injected people with venom, or at least that's the claim. That's the claim. So, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But what did we learn in the human family during the first seal period? Remember, I've showed on my channel, the elite are playing by a playbook. It is based off 2 things. One of them is the 4-year Greek Olympiad calendar, and the other one is the 4-year Pythian calendar, and it's every 2 years. Every 4 years is like 2 years, the way they staggered it, just like the Olympics. So I've showed you in a video that the whole playbook was in the London Olympics in 2012. I have 2 very long videos that break down every scene of the 3-hour opening ceremony and the 3-hour closing ceremony to the London 2012 Olympics, where every bit of this was laid out for us. In the first seal, the White Horseman, we learned of Apollo Pharmakia. It's water. Apollo Pharmakia injured the human race by sticking us with a toxon. Not a toxin. In Greek, it's toxon. In the first seal, we learned that the pharmaceutical companies are trying to kill us. In the second seal, it was phase 2 of the program preparing for 2046. In the second seal, they created this they took peace from the earth by creating this terror and all these knife attacks and all these small arms warfare. But what they really did was unleash so many programs from 2023, 2024, 2025, even now, of putting all these migrants into foreign countries. They're spreading out the bloodline. They are creating all kinds of stuff. They created all kinds of stuff with the woke left, all this controversy. Every bit of this was to muddle the waters, get more ethnicity, spread it all out, create diversity. It has nothing to do with what we thought it had to do with a certain people. They just act as agents. They're servants to what's really going on. It is a reptilian agenda to get the world into the mindset of accepting everybody for what they are, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. The seals are all about unveiling. That's what they're all about. The third seal, and another thing in the second seal, the world has never been more awake than right now in seeing. And it only happened during the second seal. It didn't happen during the first seal. Still weren't even allowed to talk about it. But in the second seal, it is now pretty much on the public mindset, the role of the Jews in all of this. Say it like it is. In the second seal, that's basically the great awakening that they have basically spearheaded all of this for a long period of time. The third seal is going to wake up the world that all the markets, all the sporting industries, everything of public venue is tightly controlled. It's all theater. We have other seals that we're too far into the future. The sixth seal is widely known to everybody in my community. The sixth seal is the return of the phoenix. It's 2040. How is that a part of the Great Awakening? Because when the phoenix happens and the sun turns black and the moon turns as blood and red dust, red rain, red soil, and red carbonaceous materials rain all over the world in preparation of the next Vapor Canopy cycle, which is just a few years later, when this happens, the whole world's going to wake up to the accurate chronology. Because once that happens, you're going to know the 552-year Phoenix cycle, the 138-year, and all these things I've been revealing to you on my channel. You're going to be able to know it for a fact because you're living in it. It's the sixth seal is the great final awakening. Like, hey man, wake up. This is your timeline. This is the seals. Every bit of it is to wake up the population. Now, 2046 comes around. It's also a part of the Great Awakening. It's the final mask being removed from the field. It is the mask of the shapeshifters. That's what 2046 is about. So a tertiary field removes the mask and you see them as they are. So what would you do to prepare for such an event if you were the subject? Well, I'm going to show you what you would do. Really simple. Real simple. Because they've already done it in the past. Around the turn of the century, 26 years ago, there was another field convergence, but it was Phoenix. All my community knows about it. 1902, the other dark age. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of videos on 1902 and what happened, but that's a convergence field too, and the elite prepared for it. So let me share my screen. So we don't know, and nor do we have access to all the different times when the elite fear that they may need some type of protection. They're not just in the underground, they're among us everywhere. What would you do? What would you do to the population if you needed to get around, but you weren't quite sure because for some reason your spidey senses are telling you there's a field convergence or there's a field strengthening going on? Whatever. Maybe these shapeshifter reptilians that David Icke told us about 30 years ago, maybe they have access to sensorial equipment that basically reads the field and tells them points of danger. So during those points of danger, they throw out. They have their servants on the surface say, hey man, look, you need to enforce mask mandates in these areas right here because this is where we're doing stuff in this area. So if everybody's wearing masks and hats and gloves and all that, it's easier for people who are trying to conceal their identities to move around. These are old. These are old. This isn't 2020. These are old. And they were enforced by law. Wear a mask or go to jail. That's old too. That's 1892. Run, lady. Save that baby. Look at this mask technology. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. This mask. That's something or somebody wearing a mask. And we already know, we've already seen on social media, the mask technology is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You can openly hide right now. But that's what you would do. You would create mask mandates and then you would normalize it. And then you would create a situation to where at any time you can unleash your servants on the surface to create a scenario that enforces masks again whenever you feel like you're going to need that. That's what I would do. But you would also create psyops that just in case the masks were ineffectual, you've got your ground covered. Yeah, this is disturbing what I'm about to show you now. But if I was a reptilian shapeshifter, this is what I would do too. Let me show you. So crazy. This whole thing is so crazy, man. Absolutely mind-blowing. All right. So we have David Nino Rodriguez invited me to his channel one time to talk about this. And we did. We talked for an hour and a half about this. It's crazy. This is demon face syndrome, and it was released into the public as a thing, and it's now something that the medical profession accepts. Demon face syndrome. They have literally turned the table on you. If you're the one that actually sees a shapeshifter, it's not the shapeshifter that's going to be the focus. It's going to be you, and they've got insane asylums waiting for you. This is what it looks like to have a scary demon face syndrome, a rare condition that makes everybody look satanic. What? What kind of mind F is that? They literally put the blame on the victim. So crazy. Let me show you. Let me get over here and put this. It's crazy. So crazy, but it's so real. Look at this. Rare disorder causes man to see people's faces as demonic. You can't make this shit up, guys. You cannot. They're getting ahead. They're getting way ahead of something. That's what this is all about. They're getting ahead of it. And that's not the only one. We're not done. The mask mandates, demon face syndrome. Oh, they've got a coup de grace waiting on us because they're going to get ahead of this. They got a coup de grace. Man, it is so crazy. Demon face syndrome. Demon face syndrome, a rare neurological disorder. You're the one with the disorder. They're genius at what they do. Look at this. It's crazy. So, how do symptoms show up? If you see somebody with skin textures that resemble black skin, bark, or even plastic, shifting facial features like melting noses or extra eyes, geometric or alien-like distortions. So if you actually see a shapeshifter lose his shit, and he kind of like we started this video out with showing different clips, yeah, you're the one going to be in trouble. I don't even know how to say that, man. Metamorphopsia, prosopot. Man, I don't give a damn. Screw all that. I'm not to say all this shit. It's crazy. Maybe they've even got names for it. Look at that. Yeah, man. I'm sitting here talking to somebody, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this girl turn into this right here. But I'm the one going to an insane asylum. It's crazy. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So this condition is different from face blindness, the condition shared by actor Brad Pitt, former Colorado governor John Hickenlooper, renowned neurologist Dr. Oliver Sacks, Sweden's Crown Princess Victoria, and perhaps as many as 1 in 50 people have seen people's faces blur out. They just named all the people that actually saw shapeshifters. Yeah, and they're guilty of having the syndrome. It is so comical. It's a fucking clown show. Yeah, man. It is a clown show, guys. So this is all about getting ahead of something. It's all about getting ahead of it. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So also, I'm going to tell you now, you're not going to the UFO alien invasion social engineering since the 1930s depicting extraterrestrials as reptilian is by design. It is a well thought out scheme to get ahead of the Nemesis X tertiary field triggering of the reptilian DNA. I can't even believe I'm talking about this. I'm 52 years old. I've spent 30 something years of my life deep in research. I have the books, the research, the data sets to prove it, and my community knows this. I cannot believe I have circled all the way back to something I dismissed 30 years ago as comical. And here I am laughing about it now as real. David Icke told us. David Icke absolutely told us. So the elite, they're going to stage an alien arrival to trick us into believing that they're from space. They have to. It's their only card. They're going to have to. Either that or they're going to do some type of major event that's going to make it look like they're already here and they're revealing themselves and they're very peaceful and they're exchanging peaceful stuff with our governments, and they may listen, it can even go as far as them setting up camps or resorts where the public can go in and meet the aliens, circuses or whatever, convention centers where the aliens will give speeches, every bit of this. They have to get in front of this because in 2046, that tertiary field's taking that mask off. They can't hide. And humans have always killed the vampires, killed the werewolves, slaughtered the demons, the trolls, the kobolds, the hobwalkies, whatever you want to call them, the goblins, the ogres. Humans have always gone on the assault as soon as they realized something was wrong. And in every context, it's demonic. They've got to get ahead of this. This is, and everything going on in society, all the theater is in preparation for this. All the misdirection and massive amount of attention and money on 3i Atlas bullshit, on all kinds of UFO, Ancient Aliens franchise thrives, not because it's good research, it's all comical, but because it's getting ahead of what's coming. Every bit of it. So we have it's so crazy. So we've already discussed this in Archaics, but you're going to want to hear this as well. It's tertiary field transition. The things that are going to happen, such as new life forms appear in the world with no trace of pre-existing development. That's Nemesis X when it creates this tertiary field. But I thought that it brought these life forms, like the Colburn Bible kind of infers that. But you know what? Or alludes to that. That's not what it was. These life forms are already here. DNA is fantastically complex, and DNA has different triggers to activate. We all have junk DNA, but it's not junk. It just activates under different stimuli, different fields. So new life forms appear in the world with no traces of pre-existing development. Check. We already got that. Proved that. Geological and geographical evidence of systemic destructions that wiped out all life. Check. We got that. We have videos in Archaics that prove to you that all life on this rock, whatever, this plane was completely eliminated. The entire world flash froze. So exact same life forms existing after a systemic cataclysm that existed prior to the destruction. We have that. I've got videos that show that allegedly 40, I got one called 649 fossils that are impossible to exist because these are supposed to be 40 million year old life forms, but every single one of them are in your backyard today. That video is compelling. So this is tertiary field. So sudden appearance of new types of same life forms as if they were modified or had adapted to entirely different conditions, such as different races of humans. Check, we got that. Artifacts and architecture that make no sense under the present field physics, but seem to stem from entirely different environmental conditions. Check. We've got social media full of all these megalithic experts who still can't put all this together. Check. You got a big check on that one. Biological genetic DNA artifacts or characteristics that have remained dormant or inactive in present field, but are structured as if they have a purpose. Check. I just told you about the geneticists who say we don't understand, but these are two perfect sequences in specimens that are supposed to be millions of years old. Check. Sudden appearance of new races of humans, as well as evidence of past races of humans that no longer exist. I've shown that on my channel as well. We have much evidence of previously existing races of humans that there's not a trace of them here anymore. Past field convergences, they carry with them many non-local connections between fields that we refer to as entanglement. This dynamic means that the closer these two fields are getting to one another, the information in both fields is becoming destabilized as these non-local connections are preparing to merge and create a tertiary field. This is why since 2020, things have been getting really weird. Check. So what this means in the world of perception is that people and events will begin to behave erratically. Those souls that are most aligned with their environment and those who will become the most destabilized, men of the world, people who are extremely attached to their possessions, wealth, their standing in society. Everything is very mundane with these people. They're vibrating on a frequency that is going to suppress them and keep them even more, because whatever happens when the Nemesis X field interaction happens, it's important to realize what's going to occur is whatever you are, you're going to become more of it. That's basically what happens in the tertiary field environment. If you're a good person, vibrating high spiritually, doing all kinds of things, reality itself in a tertiary field environment is going to make you even better person and experiencing all the benefits thereof. If you're a POS, no good, rotten piece of shit, and you've been living that way, maybe even your whole culture is like that, and you've been victimizing the rest of the world. When the tertiary field comes, you're going to be even more of that. If you're negative, if you're angry, if you're violent, if you're always pissed off, if you always see the negative in everything around you in the tertiary field environment, it's going to accentuate those traits in you to be even more upset, violent, lonely, all the negative base emotions. So this is why the shape changers will not be able to hide anymore. They're already of reptilian DNA. But the more the Nemesis X tertiary field approaches, the convergence field approaches before it becomes full tertiary, you're going to see the signs. More and more people are going to start seeing shapeshifters. More and more reasons to have mask mandates. More and more people are going to be diagnosed with demon face syndrome. All these things were put out into the field to be utilized as damage control. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to when an event will occur, which is the coup de grace, which is the shapeshifter reptilian race literally performing the psyop of alien arrival or alien invasion. So, and it's just them. They're already here. Humans with weakened or damaged avatars will be most susceptible to tertiary field influence, meaning that like most non-spiritual people during field convergences, they're going to be weighed down by the very phenomena of the terrasphere and the Nemesis X plane. But people that are jovial, happy, that everything looks promising, every single moment is pregnant with possibility. These people with the architecture of personality like this, they're going to thrive in a tertiary field environment. It's always going to accentuate what you are. So crazy. It's just so crazy. This is 3 hours and 30 minutes. Would one of my moderators please post the Shriekback song, Black Nemesis Parthenogenesis? Would you please post that link? You guys have got to listen to this on YouTube. This is a song from 1984 that told us everything I'm telling you now. Would you please post the video, my video, not just the song, but you need to listen to the song, but you need to pay attention to my video. I break down every image in the video and all the lyrics in the chorus. It is literally telling you everything I'm telling you right now. And it was in a song in 1984 where they were telling you about parthenogenesis. They told us dinosaurs were coming back. They told us about the reptiles. They told us about the elite. The song is written from the perspective of the shape changers. This is the song. Parthenogenesis, Black Nemesis by the group called Shriekback. And it was another way that they told us the truth. It was soft disclosure. So it's absolutely amazing. But one of my moderators, please also post my video that I did on the full decode of that music video, because it will make everything clear to you, the things that we're talking about. Let's see, let's put this up. So everything is theater. This is why I pulled back, and this is another reason why I've pulled back. I listened to Shanta. I pulled back on my war against Graham Hancock. There's nothing left to disprove anyway. I've gone through all of Graham Hancock's stuff and show you it's all BS. It's all bullshit. He and Randall Carlson are now in damage control, doing a bunch of videos together, talking about a bunch of topics that are very fringe archaics. They're in full damage control. But the whole uniformitarian model is under assault. Jimmy Corsetti is under assault by archaeologists. I have pulled back. I let them have the front. He's getting beat up by archaeologists. Billy Carson has already fallen. So there's no reason to continue that war. None of them were going to debate me on any matters of substance anyway. So I have pulled back from that war. And since then, you guys have seen the result. I have had a paradigm shift in my thinking, and I have released videos almost every single other day. And I just keep processing more information, discovering more stuff. And this whole thing came together 4 days ago, and it was a shock. It was just like a massive shock that here I am putting all this stuff, and it's kind of like eating crow, because I have been so vocal about different theories being told bullshit, like the shape changers, and here I am going right into it. So I am eating a little crow, and so my apology would be to David Icke. Now he's still a part of the uniformitarian model. There's no doubt, but it's all theater. Satan's little season, the whole Tartarian narrative. Why do you think these things were put out there? You just were given the business in this one video, and I've got many supporting videos to show to support what I've said here. But all these false narratives, they're theater. All of politics is theater. Everything you see on the news is theater. Everything with TPUSA is theater. Every time Erica Kirk gets on TV and she widens her eyes a little bit, it's all theater. It is designed to suck you in. Did you see Erica Kirk's eyes? Look, every time she does it, she's doing it on purpose. That little flare she has, it's everything is theater, from the highest echelons all the way down, all of Hollywood, all of politics, all of sport, all the sports industry. It's all theater. Everything is fake. Everything is rigged. There's real things to discover, as I show on my channel all the time. There are things that are axiomatic. If I stab myself with a pin, I'm gonna feel painful. That's true for you too. We all have to go to sleep and we all wake up. It's axiomatic. There are self-evident truths in the construct. There are many things to discover. Truths are everywhere, but there's been a whole lot of misinformation thrown out into the field. We have the exact dates based off historic precedents of when these events are expected to occur. 2040 for the Phoenix, 2046 for Nemesis X. And we have many different species of analysis that we can show this from so many different vantage points. But a lot of the history that fills in these chronological timelines was invented and totally made up, including the Anno Domini calendar we're in right now. We're in the year 5920 of the old world's calendar, which translates to 2026 of this calendar right now. But with social media being full with all these crazy theories and so many different people, and they're so perpetuated. There's so many of them, like the Y files. This dude is huge. The Y files, he just gets the material from other content creators and all that, and just repackages it and does a better job. Talks to a damn fish in a fishbowl, and he's promoted by mainstream big time. With the Y files too, he's really good at throwing all these little fake theories out there. Some of it's hit or miss, but really it's these huge, gigantic channels. They're all gatekeeping. And what I mean by gatekeeping is that it doesn't matter what your theory is. They will promote you as long as you support the uniformitarian model to push these dinosaurs and all this stuff to 65 million years ago. If your theory, like Archaics, won't actually attacks the uniformitarian theory, We're not going to support you. We're not going to let any of these other podcasters even invite you onto their channels. We're not going to talk about you. We're going to kill you with silence. Got to judge things by their effects, guys. We are in an info war. There is no doubt. And I don't have any intention on losing. That's my presentation, guys. That's my presentation. I will give me something to eat, come back, and check out this chat. But I hope I made my case, and I hope any of you guys follow David Icke. There's no disrespect intended. The man called it. He absolutely called it. And I believe I've done a pretty good job of showing it. If I made my case, I would like to hear you say that in the chat, and for you to hit that like. And yes, I won at poker last night. If Dad's in the chat, I know he's like, ah. Yes, I did. I had all them big old fat chips in front of me last night. Won a stack of $2 bills too. Yeah, man. What a video. Get through that one, man. That one was a mess. If I made my case, please let me know. Love you guys.